Chapter 1527. The Last Battle. 8. Su Luo didn't have any mental burden to get out of bed. After freshening up, she walked out of the room. Today was Nangong Luyun and Dongfang Xian's match. It was a match everyone was looking forward to. Su Luo naturally must be absent. Strong fire colliding might be a great help for her cultivation. After last time's battle with Li Aochen, Su Luo's strength had already been promoted to the middle of 9th rank. Su Luo really wanted to be promoted all the way to the peak of 9th rank through this last battle. Because following the development of the situation, among the people present, only her strength was the weakest. The feeling of being at the bottom every day really wasn't wonderful. Is your injury really healed? On the way there, the two people sat inside the dragon-scaled horse carriage. Su Luo's arm was wrapped around his and seriously asked. This time wasn't ordinary. Before, she could even disregard Luo Haoming's battle. But this time, the opponent was Dongfang Xian. Su Luo had a premonition that Dongfang Xian was a lot more difficult to deal with than Luo Haoming, because Dongfang Xian gave a person a gloomy and ruthless feeling, as if he was a viper in the dark with a strange, cold, and remote gaze. His mouth spitting out poisonous snake venom, making it impossible for people to guard against. Rest assured, I will marry you. Nangong Liyun's pitch black as ink eyes, under his thick curly eyelashes, shone like diamond. His eyes contained a gentle and warm smile, looking at Su Luo full of tenderness. Su Luo suddenly felt shy and patted his arm. Who's worried about this? Nangong Liyun smiled softly, his beautiful red lips hooked up, smiling in a demonically charming and alluring manner. Foolish girl, what are you worried about? You must believe in your man. Nangong Luyun rubbed her head. Although it was the most common movement, but when he did it, every movement gave off the aura of a king, graceful and unhurried, making it hard for a person to resist. Got it? Su Luo knew he wouldn't change his mind on matters he was determined on. She could firmly tell him, if you can't beat him, then it doesn't matter. Even if everyone in the world prevents it, I will still be with you. So promise me you won't get to the point where both sides suffer severe injuries, okay? Su Luo unblinkingly looked at him. Her eyes were bright as the stars, with thick, curly eyelashes. Her features were picturesque, appearance like the spring sunshine and morning dew, giving off a youthful vitality and flirtatious feeling. The two people's gazes met in midair. Nangong Liyun looked at this girl in front of his eyes that was so beautiful as to make him choke. He took a deep breath and shifted his gaze away. This girl really could take his life. Just now, with a taut face, she had seriously asked him. In that instant, despite the self-control he was most proud of, he almost lost control. He was itching to do her on the spot. Su Luo, at this time, was completely unaware of the two-faced thought of this man in front of her. She saw Nangong Luyun avoid her eyes and thought he did it because he didn't want to agree to her conditions. As a result, our Miss Su Luo became unhappy. Her white as jade finger touched Nangong Liyun's beautiful sculpted face. She turned his face back to look at her face to face. Promise me, okay? Su Luo's gaze was serious and grave. But Nangong Liyun's black eyes were filled with a deep and indistinct light. Their eyes met, not saying a word. Why won't you say anything? Su Luo's red lips pouted slightly and looked at Nangong Liyun, whose breathing had become deeper with puzzlement. In the end, Su Luo hadn't finished speaking when she found her waist was confined. The back of her head was also restricted. Afterwards, a deep shadow leaned over from above her. Su Luo's soft lips were firmly sucked on. Oh, Su Luo opened her eyes wide. Temporarily, she couldn't react. But Nangong Liyun simply didn't give her an opportunity to react. The hand that confined her slender waist lifted up Su Luo, immediately rolling her into his arms. Chapter 1528. The Last Battle. 9. During the wild kiss, Nangong Liyun's body suddenly became rigid. Su Luo seemed to have sensed Nangong Liyun's strangeness and wanted to push him away, but Nangong Liyun's large, hot palm tightly held onto the back of her head. confining her firmly under his body, unmoving and continuing to kiss her. But Nangong Liuyun's body became rigid. His tightly closed eyes shuddered slightly. His brows were even tighter. As if a long time passed, a long time, dragon-scaled horse's carriage slowly stopped. Only now did Nangong Liyun unwillingly cup Su Luo's cheek and separate from her. Su Luo right now looked flirtatiously charming, carrying a thread of allure. She was already an otherworldly beauty. Now, this appearance even made Nangong Liyun, who had astonishing self-control, almost lose it. But in the next second, Nangong Liyun's hand was placed on his legs. From there, he could feel an intense pain, clearly telling him that matters were not good. He never expected the pain in his legs that hadn't come for a long time would burst out right now. What's wrong? Su Luo sensed the difference in Nangong Liyun and asked in deep concern. What? The corner of Nangong Liyun's mouth bloomed into a tender smile as he, in a spoiling manner, looked at Su Luo. At this moment, Nangong Liyun's jet-black hair was scattered on his shoulders. It was only partially tied up by a white ribbon. His black hair, under the light of the sun, gave a brilliant luster, luminous and splendid. Just now, she actually saw a trace of pain in Nangong Liyun's eyes. How was this possible? Su Luo patted her own head. She only felt that maybe her eyes had blurred, and it was an illusion. Su Luo smiled, sweetly wrapping around Nangong Liyun's arm, and walked out of the dragon-scaled horse carriage with him. Once Nangong Liyun appeared, he was like a brilliant stone, gathering all the splendor. The crowd that roared and was noisy immediately became quiet. Everyone's gaze was all gathered on his body. Compared to those elder ancestors that had lived for who knows how long, Nangong Liyun was not the strongest. But without a doubt, he was the most popular person at the scene. Nangong Liyun's body was tall and stood there just like a magnificent and limitless god. The sunlight shined from his back, as if he was enveloped by a golden light, honorable, poised, and rightfully imposing. Under everyone's eyes, Nangong Liyun's pair of eyes was fixed. He only pulled Su Luo along and calmly, unhurriedly, went to their seat. Is it too hot? After sitting down, Su Luo saw the faint sweat on Nangong Liyun's forehead and smilingly asked, when did his body become like this from heat exhaustion? No. Nangong Liyun lifted a hand to grab her wrist, the corner of his mouth lifting into a light smile and putting her hand back. At this time, if Su Luo touched his skin, based on her senses, she could definitely find some clues. At that time, she would use her all to force him to give up this match. But getting the first two places was his promise to her. Nangong Liyun's beautiful eyes were tranquil, handsome as a god as he leaned against the chair. He closed his eyes to rest. Seeing his expression, Su Luo had some suspicion and guessed about what was wrong with Nangong Liyun. He would never oppose her touch, but just now, at that moment, he was clearly blocking her touch. Su Luo carefully looked at Nangong Liyun, who had his eyes closed. Right now, his face was incomparably handsome. His lips were dark red. Every corner of his face was clear and healthy. Even with his eyes closed, he gave off an imposing aura that would scare people, overwhelming people at a glance. Su Luo suddenly remembered it couldn't be that the pain in his legs occurred again, right? But after some thought, she felt it wasn't right. The pain in Nangong Liyun's leg would occur in the middle of the month. It had a regular pattern. Now, it was the start of the month. It couldn't be occurring right now. Moreover, she had always been with Nangong Liyun these several months. The pain didn't seem to have recurred during these months. Chapter 1529. The Last Battle, 10. However, Su Luo never expected that Nangong Liyun's luck would be so bad. To actually fall ill before such a critical competition and facing such a strong opponent. It's time. On the stage, Dongfang Xian looked at Nangong Liyun with provocation. The corner of Nangong Liyun's dark lips carelessly hooked up. His gaze was like the night pearl in the Black Sea, giving off a brilliant and radiant luster. He looked at Su Luo firmly and with no regrets. Girl. Nangong Liyun's chin was handsome and sculpted, perfectly curved. His gaze was like bright starlight, firmly and seriously gazing at Su Luo. Wait for me to return, okay? Okay, I'll wait for you. Su Luo smiled brilliantly and hugged Nangong Luyun by the neck. She stood on tiptoes and kissed his cheek. Her red lips touched the ice-cold skin, and Su Luo's heart suddenly jumped. But at this moment, Nangong Luyun had already firmly pushed her away, took large strides toward the stage. Su Luo's thought process was very fast. With lightning speed, she seemed to have understood something. But just at this time, Nangong Luyun was already on the stage and smiled brilliantly toward Su Luo. This smile would charm all living things, capturing the hearts of every young miss. But Su Luo's expression was very impatient. What to do? Su Luo was so busy that she was running around in circles in place. Ziyan walked over and pulled Su Luo back, pushing her back into the chair and seriously asking with deep concern, "What happened? Why are you anxious like this?" Bei Qining also gathered close. "Don't be anxious. Don't worry. Nangong will definitely defeat Dongfang Xian." Su Luo, with a crying face, said her suspicions out loud. "I suspect Nangong's leg issue flared up again." "What?" Bei Qining immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. He knew about the matter of Nangong Luyun being sick in the middle of the month. At that time, the little Nangong Luyun was in so much pain that he tied himself up. He bit his teeth and crouched under the table. When the elders found him, he had already passed out from the pain. The floor had a huge spot full of water. That was all the sweat that fell from his body. And his body seemed as if it was fished up from deep water, wet from head to toe. But even when he was in so much pain, he still didn't say a word. He didn't yell out a bit about how bitter it was, even though the bottom of his lips has turned into a meat strip from being bitten. Even though they were in the room next door, they didn't hear a sound. Ever since that time, Bei Qining completely was convinced by Nangong Luyun. That year, Nangong Luyun was only 8 years old. Such a young boy, with pink skin, sculpted like fine jade, a cute little boy, was already able to be ruthless to himself to that degree. The little Bei Qining afterwards directly followed blindly behind him. Now, when Bei Qining heard Nangong Luyun's sickness had returned, his face turned deathly white. "The middle of the month hasn't arrived yet, ah?" Bei Qining bit his teeth and said in a low tone. But the deeply worried sound in that tone was very obvious. How could it just happen to be today? Ziyan was so worried that she stamped her feet. "Did you see it wrong?" Bei Qining stared at Su Luo. His beautiful eyes had a never-before-seen seriousness. Because the Nangong Luyun on the stage had his body tall and straight, his embroidered robe dancing in the wind. He didn't give off a bit of a feeling as if he was ill. "Hope what I thought I saw was wrong." Su Luo bit her lips and took a deep breath. Be that as it may, her heart was still restless. Her sixth sense had always been accurate. Her ability to sense danger had always been very sharp. She had a strong premonition. The premonition indicated that something would happen to Nangong Luyun on the stage. At this moment, Nangong Luyun and Dongfang Xian stood facing each other on the stage. The corner of Dongfang Xian's lips hooked up into a provocative and savage cold smile. His tone was frosty as if it came from prison in the underworld. "Third younger brother, it's been a long time since I saw you." Chapter 1530, The Last Battle, 11. Nangong Luyun's expression was apathetic, couldn't tell his mood. He nodded indifferently. "First senior brother. Master had always said your natural talent is very good, absolutely none better than you. You are his best masterpiece in his lifetime." A strangeness flashed through Dongfang Xian's eyes. His tone was ice-cold and hidden, but I don't believe it. Dongfang Xian was enveloped in ice-cold, killing intent from head to toe. He murderously stared at Nangong Luyun. Nangong Luyun's gaze was sharp and abstruse. His figure was motionless and firm as he rightfully cast a cold, sidelong glance at Dongfang Xian. "Very quickly, you will believe it." "Really? Then ask third junior brother to give a few pointers." Dongfang Xian's gaze contained varied coldness and frost, a strange reflection floating in it. Acknowledged. Nangong Luyun's perfectly curved and beautiful chin slowly lifted up. His beautiful eyes were handsome as bright stars. It had a can conquer every obstacle self-confidence. Off the stage, Su Luo's heart suddenly lifted up, because she could feel that these two people were about to battle. Sure enough, this thought of hers had barely risen up when she saw the two figures quickly crisscross and pass by. Speed, such fast speed. Just now, when the two people crossed by each other, they exchanged 13 moves. But in everyone's eyes, it was only a second in time, such fast speed. Like light that flashed by, the two people had already parted from the exchange. Originally, Nangong Luoyun was on the left, Dongfang Xian on the right. But now, Dongfang Xian changed to Nangong Luoyun's original position. It was the same for Nangong Luoyun. Several hundred thousands of spectators gave off sounds of surprise and sucked in cold air. Their eyes stared fixedly at the two people on the stage, unblinkingly and with rapt attention. Two brilliant worthy of being a battle of experts at their summit. A contest of strong against strong. In the blink of an eye, they had already exchanged so many pointers they actually couldn't make sense of what they saw, but could feel it was very powerful. Nangong Luoyun didn't expect you actually had such strength. Dongfang Xian's eyebrow lifted up slightly. Although he was saying a praise, his eyes, however, were filled with self-confidence. But you are too far behind when compared to me. Victory is not something that comes from boasting. Nangong Luoyun disdainfully sneered. Really? Then I'll let you see whether victory belongs to me. Dongfang Xian suddenly drew a sword from his back. This sword's name is Yu Juesha. Dongfang Xian looked as if he was looking at his most beloved lover. His gaze gave off a soft, light tone, slowly emphasizing each word he was saying. Once a sword is unsheathed, it will inevitably drink blood before returning. Otherwise, he would receive the kickback. Nangong Luoyun faintly smiled, not at all concerned. Dongfang Xian's eyes flashed with self-confidence, looked at the ice-cold sword that would deal the final blow. His soft tone carried a trace of strange darkness. These 10 years, Juesha has followed me travel all over the world. Encountered a total of 9 10th-ranked experts. Juesha has already drank blood 9 times. Now, senior brother left the last opportunity for you. You should feel honored. The corner of Nangong Luoyun's mouth bloomed into a splendid smile. This last opportunity ought to be set aside for yourself. Only then would it be perfect. Under the stage, Su Luo laughed out loud with a PFF sound. Even though her heart was worried, she still found this funny. Nangong Luoyun's speaking ability was still this nimble. Just now, he and Dongfang Xian fought very quickly and wasn't hindered a bit. She hoped he really didn't fall ill and ruthlessly taught Dongfang Xian a lesson. Both of Su Luo's palms were together in prayer and silently prayed. She had never believed in supernatural beings, but this time, she'd rather believe they exist. On the stage, the dialogue had completed. The Juesha sword in Dongfang Xian's hand suddenly unsheathed. The corner of his mouth hooked up demonically, his gaze staring unwaveringly at Nangong Luoyun. Chapter 1531. The Last Battle, 12. Nangong Luoyun's eyes were sharp as a hawk, giving off a cold, murderous aura. Third brother, you have always been a gifted genius. It's only a pity. This time you're going to fall. Dongfang Xian coldly smiled. Since before, he had wanted to find an opportunity to kill this irksome third junior brother. But the rule of the sect was very strict, so he hadn't found an opportunity. But on the battle stage, a sword has no eyes. Even if Master personally came, he also had a reasonable explanation. Nangong Luoyun coldly smiled. A pity. You are an idiot. A cold light burst out from Dongfang Xian. Soon after, one only saw him lift up Juesha and pour his spirit powers into it. In the wake of Juesha's blade, starting to get brighter, one by one, the number of Dongfang Xian's figure increased on the battle stage. In the end, 36 Dongfang Xian appeared. So many Dongfang Xian encircled the stage and enveloped Nangong Luoyun in the middle. 36 Dongfang Xian. In the end, which one was the real him? Off the stage, everyone was dumbstruck. Su Luo's group was even more anxious. 9 turns of virtue images. Ziyin covered her lips as she cried out in alarm. What 9 turns of virtue images? Su Luo bit her lower lips, her tone carrying in nervousness. Each of us have a secret life-saving skill. First senior brother learned 9 turns of virtue images for this skill. As long as one fully puts this skill to use, every turn that breaks through, the virtue images will increase by 9-fold. For example, the first turn there will be 9 virtue images, the second turn will be 18 virtue images, and so on. While Ziyin was speaking, she also watched Nangong Luyun being encircled in the middle, full of concern. Su Luo's heart almost dropped to the floor. Then the Dongfang Xian right now must have made 4 turns. What's called only made 4 turns of virtue images. Master at that time said when first senior brother studied to the 4th turn of virtue images, then in this continent, he would be undefeated among 10th rank and lower. Unless 3rd senior brother got promoted to commander rank. Otherwise, Ziyin was furious as well as helpless. She was angry that Master would have eyes and not see the pearl, and teach such an awesome skill to first senior brother, who was a bastard that behaved worse than a beast. 3rd junior brother, very soon, you will understand what's called being killed easily. Dongfang Xian was clearly very self-confident. Nangong Luyun smiled indifferently, his shadow slowly moving up. But at the same time, 36 virtue images lifted up Juesha sword with their right hand and madly rushed towards Nangong Luyun in the middle. Such terrifying power! Ziyin cried out in alarm several times. At that time, when first senior brother put this skill to full use, its strength was weaker than this by half. These last 10 years, Dongfang Xian had traveled the world to gain experience and went to many places no one had tread before. So he had many adventures and opportunities. What will Nangong Luyun do? Su Luo's gaze stared nervously at the stage. Her heart was in a mess. She was even more nervous than if she herself was to battle Dongfang Xian. Now, the 36 virtue images almost rushed to Nangong Luyun. Juesha's sword was lifted up high, simultaneously hacking down towards Nangong Luyun in the middle. Don't! Su Luo suddenly stood up and cried out in alarm. Ziyin and Bei Qinying's group also stood up in succession. They almost lost their heads out of fear, watching the stage. Outside the heavily surrounded encirclement, Nangong Luyun's figure wasn't there. He was still in the center of the encirclement. A countless number of Juesha's swords stabbed towards his head. Very quickly, Nangong Luyun's head was hit with a piercing blow. Ah! Su Luo gave a bitter cry of alarm and almost fainted. She just knew Nangong Luyun's disease had an outbreak. His strength was greatly reduced. Don't even speak of battling. Just sitting there not moving would be extremely painful. It was all her fault. She should have pulled Nangong Luyun to a stop earlier. She shouldn't have allowed him to go on the stage to battle. Chapter 1532, The Last Battle 12. Just at this moment, Bei Qinying grabbed Su Luo to stop her, loudly yelling, "Don't be anxious. Nangong Luyun has already escaped the encirclement." Only now did Su Luo's mind become a bit clear-headed. She opened her eyes wide and looked towards the stage. Sure enough, those sharp swords pierced only Nangong Luyun's virtue image rather than really piercing his body, because there wasn't a drop of blood on Juesha's sword. Moreover, just when he was about to be pierced, Nangong Luyun's figure slowly dissipated into the air. Nangong Luyun dodged too fast, resulting in only his virtual shadow that was left behind. A false alarm. Only now did Su Luo's heart go back to its original position. That second just now, she was terrified out of her mind becoming blank. Until that second, she suddenly discovered how important a place Nangong Luyun had in her heart. Before, she incessantly wouldn't dare to admit it. But just now, at that second, Su Luo had no choice but to admit he had already completely filled her heart. There wasn't a trace of space left in her heart for someone else. On the stage, Nangong Luyun didn't know that just because of the false alarm now, it would make Su Luo's heart firm and full of powerful faith in him. At this moment, He was still battling Dongfang Xian. Dongfang Xian's sword-like eyebrows fiercely hooked up, his annoyed gaze staring at the don't-know when he had left the encirclement. Nangong Luyun, your speed now has the qualification to battle with me. Maybe to say that starting from this moment, Dongfang Xian really regarded Nangong Luyun as an opponent equal to him, and not that cute little boy from back then with a stiff face who tried to pretend to be an adult. Nangong Luyun coldly smiled. A pity you can't be compared to me. Such an arrogant tone. Dongfang Xian heavily snorted in displeasure. Then just try me. How fast is your speed in the end? Strong experts battle. Speed was more important than attack power. His words hadn't faded when Dongfang Xian had already launched an attack. Then come. Nangong Luyun smiled faintly. His words hadn't faded, yet his voice had already appeared 100 meters outside. Such a fast speed? Dongfang Xian, seeing this, his brows were tightly knotted. He never imagined, after not seeing him for 10 years, the little brat from back then that he didn't even bother to glance at had grown to the degree where he had to treat this person seriously. Dongfang Xian's eyes exploded out with cold light. Immediately after, his figure moved, pursuing closely after Nangong Luyun, unwilling to let go. Up ahead, Nangong Luyun's brows also hooked up slightly. Dongfang Xian was worthy of being first senior brother. His speed was indeed fast, just a token bit faster than him. One in front, one behind. The two people chased nonstop. After images, one by one, flashed by. The spectators off the stage had all become dumbfounded from watching. After images were how unreal a thing. It had always existed in legends. But this time, they really had seen it for real. Moreover, it wasn't only once. This was a real battle. Only this was the battle of strong experts at the summit. Really was too marvelous. Su Luo took a deep breath and held her breath with rapt attention. She was incomparably serious as she stared at the stage. She didn't dare relax for a second. She was afraid that once she relaxed, Nangong Luyun would disappear forever in front of her. On the VIP seats, the originally smiling and talking several elder ancestors now had all stopped talking. Their eyes had a trace of seriousness. All the battles before didn't arouse their attention. But this time, even their expressions had become serious. Looks like Luo Haoming losing wasn't wrong. Bachin family's master stroked his chin and acted serious as he said this. Humph! Luo family's master had a gloomy expression. His ice-cold eyes cast a heavy glance at Bachin family's master. Chapter 1533. The Last Battle 13. Why, Humph again, and your family's boys still won't enter the top 4. Bachin family's master directly patted the table. Did your family's boy enter? Luo family's master retorted back. It hadn't been long since he lost a grandson and granddaughter. Only this Luo Haoming had shown greatness. But who would have known that he, as the last time's champion, couldn't even enter the top 4, really lost all his face for him. Bachin family's master stroked the sparse beard under his chin and proudly said, In any case, my family's boy won't be able to enter the top 4. But able to enter the top 7 is pretty good in any case. He is still young. Oh. Still young. These two words once again heavily hit Luo family's master. His family's Luo Haoming was about to be 30 years old. Able to participate in this time's roaming dragon list competition was also because he was born in the later month and was barely able to qualify. Humph! Luo family's master indignantly turned his face away. Bachin family's master's mood got even better. Grandmaster Rong Yun sat on the chairperson seat and seemed to be looking at the battle on the stage. His pair of pitch-black deep eyes were half-narrowed. Nobody knew what he was thinking of. He sat there indifferently, as if he had drifted away from the 9th layer of heaven, overlooking everything from high above. On the stage, the battle continued. Streak after streak of remnant images appeared in succession. Although Nangong Luyun's speed was fast, the fine beads of sweat continuously came out of his forehead. His complexion became increasingly paler and paler. Although he pursed his lips and didn't seem to be affected, his movements were still decreased. Just at this moment, Dongfang Xian got closer and closer during the chase. Dongfang Xian's speed was very formidable. Not long after, Nangong Liuyan appeared within the range of his attacks. Looking at the figure that quickly flashed by up ahead, Dongfang Xian's gaze turned sinister as he sneered. Nangong Liuyan, go die. Dongfang Xian lifted up Juesha's sword and chopped down from up high. Swoosh! Dongfang Xian's calculation was accurate. Juesha's sword hacked down from above Nangong Liuyan's head. If he was hit on the mark, then Nangong Liuyan's body would split from the middle and become two halves. At this moment, everyone's heart was tightly raised up. Did His Highness Prince Jean get hit directly? Did it hit? His Highness Prince Jean seems to have been hacked to death. Hit is obscured. Dongfang Xian seemed to cut with thousands of blades. The spectators under the stage were riled up. But on the surface of the battle stage, a deep sword cut appeared. But not a trace of blood could be seen. Nangong Liuyan's figure couldn't be seen all around the stage. A countless number of spectators' eyes were opened until they were round, trying to find a trace of Nangong Liuyan. But they were disappointed, then immediately became excited again. At this moment, Su Luo also slowly released a breath of relief. This battle really was frightening. Su Luo felt that being frightened like this, she would certainly live several years less. This speed is too fast, right? That right, my master's master compared to them is simply like a child that just learned to walk. So many Remen images, really a thrilling competition. Even if I lost the bet, able to see this competition is worth the bet. That's right. Who did you guys bet on to win? He got inside information. This Dongfang Xian is His Highness Prince Jin's senior brother. He was promoted to the summit of 10th rank a long time ago. Sorry, I could only abandon His Highness Prince Jin. That's right, that's right. I heard that the Master of Purgatory City regards Dongfang Xian more highly. It could be assumed that his talent and strength is even better, chances to win is much greater. Although I also like His Highness Prince Jin, but I still bought I also bought Dongfang Xian. I heard His Highness Prince Jin got sick again. Off the stage, everyone was discussing spiritedly. Only talking about it did people know. It turned out that the majority of the people bought Dongfang Xian to win. Chapter 1534, The Last Battle 14. If he loses this time, then the financial compensation would be disastrous. Ziyin lowered her voice to say in a whisper, not only do we have to pay out all the money we won before, moreover, we'll have to shoulder millions of crystal stones in debt. PFF. Su Luo took a breath, and it went in the wrong way. Her clear, limpid monochrome large eyes then stared at Beichening. Beichening stiffly nodded. What Ziyin said is correct. She had personally looked over the account books. Su Luo silently turned her gaze towards the stage. Nangong Liuyan, no matter what reason, this time, you must push through. Win or lose, it doesn't matter. On the stage, Nangong Liuyan and Dongfang Xian had battled each other, trying to prevail over the other. Bang, bang, bang. This was an extremely fast battle. The speed was so fast that everyone could only see shadows crisscross. Spectators simply couldn't see how they struck. The only thing they knew was that they could hear the sound of weapons making contact nonstop. Don't know when, a sword had already appeared in Nangong Liuyan's hand, Qi Shao's sword. And in Dongfang Xian's hand was also an exceptional ancient sword, Juesha's sword. The 4 famous swords in the world actually all appeared in this time's roaming dragon list competition. Really is interesting. Dongfang Xian's eyes rose slightly. His own Juesha's sword, Nangong Liuyan's Qi Shao's sword, Luo Haoming's Luo Yu sword, and there was Su Luo's Chenging sword. The rumored legendary 4 famous swords in the world, this time, had already assembled together. Immediately after, Dongfang Xian's tone changed, its deep cold tone carrying a trace of emphasis. The 4 famous swords in the world. Dongfang Xian, won all of them. Such a huge appetite, not even afraid of choking to death. Nangong Liuyan mocked as he sneered. Third junior brother, your body doesn't seem to be good. Dongfang Xian's face suddenly spread out into a smile. His smile was like a blooming flower. Nangong Liuyan's pair of beautiful eyes was long, narrow, and deep, flashing with a faint luster. Really? Nangong Liuyun knew that his complexion was terrifyingly pale. Even if he wanted to conceal it, he couldn't. Dongfang Xian's gaze looked towards Nangong Liuyun's leg. Although Nangong Liuyun was standing ramrod straight, extremely handsome, however, that pair of legs couldn't suppress from repeatedly shivering slightly. Seeing this, Dongfang Xian's smile became increasingly carefree. Third junior brother, it seems, even the heavens want to help me. Dongfang Xian simply didn't feel that there was something wrong with taking advantage of someone else's difficulties. He only knew to behead the opponent under Juesha's sword, and he would win. I'm afraid you won't have this chance. The depths of Nangong Liuyun's eyes were like tranquil seas. His exquisite facial features that were carefully carved and cut out was perfect. To collect all 4 famous swords, I'll just begin from you. Nangong Liuyun. Dongfang Xian waved the Juesha sword and suddenly rushed towards Nangong Liuyun. His speed was very fast, as if he was about to go through Nangong Liuyun's body. At this time, the 2 people disappeared from the battle stage at the same time. Everyone off the stage was stunned. Huh? Where did the people go? As if they disappeared in a second, completely can't be seen. It seems they flew to mid-air. Suddenly, somebody cried out loudly. Everyone lifted their heads to look. Sure enough, Nangong Liuyun and Dongfang Xian were standing in mid-air. One left, one right, entirely different. At this moment, Su Luo's heart had risen to her throat. Just now, what Nangong Liuyun and Dongfang Xian said, she had heard clearly. Her intuition wasn't wrong. Nangong Liuyun indeed had an outbreak of his illness. Moreover, Dongfang Xian knew. Originally, Nangong Liuyun's leg wasn't good. He could only stand on the ground with great difficulty. Now, flying to mid-air wasted even more strength. Su Luo secretly clenched her teeth. Dongfang Xian, treacherous and deceitful. These 2 words really suit your image. Chapter 1535. The Last Battle 15. First senior brother is too hateful. Ziyan bit her lower lips and accompanied Su Luo to stand up, raising their heads to look at the 2 people in midair. Nangong Liuyun is still holding up, although he didn't show it and the majority of the people hadn't discovered it. But Su Luo knew his situation wasn't good. At this moment, the people in midair stood facing each other. Dongfang Xian's gaze was bloodthirsty and sinister as he laughed madly. Third junior brother, how long can you hold on? Nangong Liuyun didn't show any weakness as he fought back coldly. How long you can last is how long I'll accompany you for. But your legs are trembling in fear, ah. Ha ha, Dongfang Xian repeatedly howled with laughter, but his body gave off a murderous aura. Nangong Liuyun's body gave off a cruel fighting intent, the corner of his mouth hooking up into a demonic and cold arc. Senior brother is also scared until you are trembling from head to toe, ah. Dongfang Xian's Juesha sword pointed directly at Nangong Liuyun. Death is at hand, and you dare mouth off. Nangong Liuyun's expression was indifferent, as if the Dongfang Xian in front of him was merely a transient cloud. Just give it all you've got. Fine. Dongfang Xian shouted loudly. Immediately, his body moved. Off the stage, everyone nervously watched the 2 of them in midair. Although they couldn't hear clearly what they were saying, but it seemed very violent. Su Luo's heart was also clenched tightly. Her gaze stared unblinkingly at the 2 figures in midair. Dongfang Xian's body moved. Instantly, around him in all directions, virtual images that looked exactly like him appeared. The number of virtual images continuously increased. 9, 18, 36, 45, 72. As the number of people increased, Su Luo's face became increasingly pale. 72. Dongfang Xian actually condensed out 72 other images of him. First senior brother actually secretly already cultivated to 8 turns, ah. Ziyan's lips trembled slightly. The words she spoke also carried traces of fear. 8 turns of virtual images. What kind of strength it is, ah? Su Luo's tone had a trace of righteous coldness. Maybe he is still hiding his real strength. Bei Qingying's fists were clenched tightly. Dongfang Xian took out his trump card, but Nangong Luyun just so happened to have encountered bad luck to have his illness strike. Was there a more unfortunate matter than this? On the VIP seats, all the elders' brows were also tightly puckered. Nangong, this boy will lose for sure this time. Old man Luo didn't have a good impression of Nangong Luyun because of his grandson and granddaughter. So, he didn't mind hitting him while down. Jade Lakesley family's old man faintly smiled. Brother Luo's words are true. Bachin family's old man coldly sneered. Without regard to others, he tossed a shelled peanut in his mouth. The outcome of the battle still hasn't been decided. The two of you guys have set down the verdict too early. Sneer, that Nangong boy's strength originally wasn't as strong as that Dongfang boy, not to mention that he is injured right now. If he can win it like this, I, Luo Mingxiu, will directly give him my family's secret martial arts Thunder Bao. Thunder Bao technique was considered a high-level martial arts. It was much stronger than the one Nangong Luyun took out from the secret book collection. What does Brother Rongyan think? Old Man Li smiled insincerely as he tossed the dialogue toward Grandmaster Rongyun. Grandmaster Rongyun's pair of icy, deep, pitch-black eyes gave off an elegant luster. Among these group of old men, such a handsome male seemed somewhat strange. But none of these old men dared to ignore his existence, because Grandmaster Rongyun's strength was profoundly mysterious. Nobody knew if he had reached the monarch rank that existed only in legends, because no one was able to force Grandmaster Rongyun to his bottom line. Chapter 1536, The Last Battle, 16. For a moment, everyone's gaze all assembled on Grandmaster Rongyun's body. Everyone all wanted to know how Grandmaster Rongyun saw this matter. At this moment, Grandmaster Rongyun sat peacefully on the chair, reclined against the chair's back. His gaze was secluded and far-reaching, his expression tranquil as water. Simply couldn't tell what he was thinking of. Suddenly, Grandmaster Rongyun's pair of beautiful eyes looked towards Old Man Luo, his tone light as the clouds. His expression was apathetic. Thunderbao technique? Luo family passed on based on refining medicine, but their strength was also very strong. Luo family's Thunderbao technique made lighting element experts drool with desire. Although they wanted it, they couldn't get it. Old Man Luo faintly returned his gaze. It's just Thunderbao technique. Could it be that Grandmaster Rongyun is interested? Even Old Man Luo must also respectfully call Rongyun as Grandmaster and didn't dare to offend him the slightest. Grandmaster Rongyun was a Grandmaster-level apothecary. Luo family became famous because of refining medicine, but didn't have a single Grandmaster-level apothecary. Moreover, in the past several hundred years, there wasn't one in his family. This was a matter that really slapped his face. Grandmaster Rongyun's robe was graceful and scholarly, looking handsome and full of spirit. He nodded, red lips hooking up as he carelessly said, "Want to bet? How does Grandmaster want to set the bet?" Old Man Luo gathered close, full of interest. Grandmaster Rongyun held the teacup. The heat rising up in spirals made his eyes seem blurred and deep. He slowly said, "This seat bets that Nangong family's little boy will win." Only monarch-ranked, super-strong experts were qualified to call themselves this seat. The people present, besides Grandmaster Rongyun, no one else had this qualification. Old Man Luo very matter-of-factly slapped the Thunderbao technique on the table as he coldly smiled. This old man bets Dongfang Xian. That little boy wins. Grandmaster Rongyun put down the teacup and from his own space, took out insights to the pharmacology at the Grandmaster rank book and placed it together with that Thunderbao technique. Insights to the pharmacology at the Grandmaster rank. The flesh at the corner of Old Man Luo's lip pulled, so excited that he almost couldn't control himself. People at his high level shouldn't be this excited, but this book that Grandmaster Rongyun took out was not ordinary. Luo family's master believed that as long as he thoroughly researched this book insights to the pharmacology at the Grandmaster rank, there was a great possibility he could be promoted to Grandmaster-level apothecarist. If you must know, Old Man Luo had been stuck at Master-level apothecary for close to 100 years. Old man Luo very cautiously hid his happiness and nodded, pretending to be indifferent. This book is okay. Grandmaster Rong Yun's red lips hooked up, and with a smile that wasn't a smile, cast him a glance. But he didn't say anything else. On this continent, lightning technique books were rare. High-level lightning techniques were so rare as to be pathetic. Although Grandmaster Rong Yun had always called Nangong Luyun foolish little boy. However, when he recalled that it would be this foolish boy that would protect his family's apprentice, only then did his interest move to get this technique from Old Man Luo's hand. On the battle stage, the two people's fight had entered the most intense stage. Dongfang Xian was like a god of war that came from ancient times. His Juesha sword was powerful and ferocious, menacing, and its imposing manner was even more earth-shaking. A dark blue water vapor appeared on Nangong Luyun's body like an armor protecting him. Nangong Luyun had always been at a disadvantage. He only had the chance to defend, whereas Dongfang Xian pressed closer, step by step, with continuous attacks full of killing intent. Suddenly, Nangong Luyun's eyes tightly knotted. The pain in his legs became more and more intense, and it even affected his consciousness. If he continued like this, maybe before he was killed by the opponent, he would faint on the battle stage. This kind of result was not something Nangong Luyun was happy to see. Chapter 1537. The Last Battle, 17. Nangong Luyun knew that he must resolve this as fast as possible. Therefore, before the next wave of pain came, he must resolve Dongfang Xian. Receive this move. Nangong Luyun coldly humphed. Immediately after, his figure flashed. The originally quiet midair suddenly became an extremely strong tornado. It whizzed by with extreme cold as it swept towards the entire earth. All around, the view became blurred and blocked. Dongfang Xian's view was also the same. Good opportunity. The Qi Shao sword in Nangong Luyun's hand facing the sky soared out. Dongfang Xian's hand gripped Juesha's sword, steadily standing in midair. Seeing Nangong Luyun's style become more ferocious, the corner of his mouth hooked into a cold sneer. Third junior brother, looks like I overestimated you. Immediately after, Dongfang Xian's hand made preparations to defend. Just at this moment, a black figure that didn't leave any virtual images behind rushed towards Dongfang Xian as if he teleported. Dongfang Xian's expression suddenly changed. Just now, that disdainful sneer, in an instant, froze at the corner of his mouth. Fast! Nangong Luyun's speed was simply too fast. So fast that he didn't have time to defend. Bang! Qi Shao's sword carried flames of fury among a tornado of wind, bring a world-shaking, inexhaustible force, directly hacking horizontally towards Dongfang Xian. Speed was too fast, fast as a streak of light. Humph! Dongfang Xian's expression became grave, but he still hadn't gotten to the stage of losing his head from fear. In the wake of this attack, Dongfang Xian did not dodge or avoid, both hands lifting up Juesha's sword. He was like a mountain blocking what's to come. Clang, 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 the two exceptional ancient swords collided. For a moment, sparks was sent in all directions that dazzled the eyes. Nangong Luyun couldn't hack down all the way. Dongfang Xian couldn't push up. The two people's strength were evenly matched. At this moment, the scene seemed to be fixed in place. The spectators off stage watching this all seemed to be stupefied. What a beautiful scene of strong experts rushing forward to battle. This absolutely was the peak of battles by strong experts. Normally, even if you were to lose the family fortune, you still wouldn't be able to see this. Because the follow-up from the battle of two strong experts were enough to turn ordinary people into smoke. But this time, Grandmaster Rong Yun put a restriction on the battle stage. As a result, they could watch this never-before-seen battle since ancient times of two strong experts without worry. At such close distance, Dongfang Xian's gloomy, cold, and deep gaze stared at Nangong Luyun. It turns out you actually hid your strength. Right back at you? Nangong Luyun smiled faintly, but the sweat on his forehead slowly rolled down. Dongfang Xian gave a sneering laugh. A pity that in the end, you still will lose, because Nangong Luyun simply couldn't persist on for much longer. However, at this moment, he had no choice but to admire Nangong Luyun. Although his body wasn't well, that frightening fighting strength still gave him lingering fear. If this was at his peak period, Dongfang Xian didn't dare to continue this thought. If Nangong Luyun was to battle him at his peak, then what were the odds of him succeeding? This question, Dongfang Xian himself didn't know the answer to. Didn't expect that after 10 years, the little brat at that time had grown this fast. So fast he had already become a powerful threat to him. If another 10 years was to pass, then, thinking up to here, Dongfang Xian's gaze gave off a sinister light. This time, he must not spare any cost and thoroughly strangle Nangong Luyun in the cradle. Because if he didn't kill him this time, wait until he matured, he wouldn't be able to sit in this position of first senior brother. Dongfang Xian's face was twisted, as he smiled strangely. Third junior brother, go die. He had just finished speaking when Dongfang Xian added more than 100% of spirit force to Juesha's sword. In a flash, Juesha's sword slowly sliced towards Nangong Luyun's throat. Chapter 1538. The Last Battle, 18. Nangong Luyun's sword-like eyebrows puckered up. He took a deep breath and, at the same time, poured in over 100% of his spirit strength. Afterwards, Qi Xiao's sword slowly rose up in strength and maintained the equilibrium state from just now. But even like this, Nangong Luyun still knew he was at a disadvantage. If this deadlock continued, wait until the next wave of pain came. Dongfang Xian would definitely grab the opportunity to launch his fiercest attack. Nangong Luyun's brows rose slightly. Suddenly, Qi Xiao's sword flashed with lightning, giving off a sizzling sound. Hateful! Dongfang Xian's heart was greatly alarmed. Sure enough, it was the lightning system element. On weapons, it naturally held an advantage. Dongfang Xian suddenly recoiled back. Momentarily, the two both retreated back 100 meters. Dongfang Xian laughed heartily. Third junior brother is worthy of being third junior brother. Strength really is astonishing. But the battle just now, I, as senior brother, didn't integrate my element within it. The following attack, you must be careful. Say less nonsense. Nangong Luyun's pair of purple eyes were incomparably indifferent. The next move, the mountains will explode and crack. Dongfang Xian gripped the Juesha sword. The spirit powers in his body quickly rotated throughout. The astonishing fighting aura leaped up continuously. Nangong Luyun's expression was cold and serene. His indifferent gaze gave off a faint cold light. Qi Xiao's sword was waiting to be released after accumulating power. Two shadows that could destroy everything streaked across the horizon. The two people were like shooting stars as they shot towards each other and knocked into each other at the speed of light. Boom! Boom! A horrible colliding sound seemed to shatter the world. The air was like waves rolling out and surging violently nonstop. Flashing lightning sword method. Nangong Luyun's eyes were dark and cold. Lightning flickered on Qi Xiao's sword as if it weighed 500 kilograms. But its speed was still strangely very fast, as if it could cut through the space between heaven and earth. The atmosphere gave off sizzling sounds. Heaven falls and earth rends. Dongfang Xian poured the ice element into Juesha's sword. Bang! A loud noise resounded. Qi Xiao, sword, and Juesha, sword met again. This time, both exceptional ancient swords contained an elemental technique. Its force was several folds greater than before. After making contact, Dongfang Xian's figure immediately dodged, his figure quickly recoiling back. But Nangong Luyun's figure quickly fell. Ah! A lot of people off stage gave an alarmed shout. Some even covered their eyes in panic and could not bear to look, because the Nangong Luyun at this moment looked like a dead leaf silently falling down. As expected, His Highness Prince Jin couldn't beat Dongfang Xian. This battle looks like His Highness Prince Jin is about to lose. A pity His Highness Prince Jin couldn't win. A countless number of sighs intertwined together, forming a strong lament. At this moment, Su Luo's hands were clenched into fists. She wished to immediately rush up and catch Nangong Luyun, but a restriction was set on the battle stage. She simply couldn't go in. Nangong Luyun, hold on! Su Luo's pair of hands formed a horn shape and loudly shouted at Nangong Luyun in midair. At this moment, Nangong Luyun's figure was about to fall to the ground. Just at this second, Nangong Luyun's body suddenly flipped over and stood up in the sky. It was a beautiful action when he flipped over, although you couldn't see any pain on his face. However, at this moment, Nangong Luyun felt the blood and qi in his body rolling over and over. In the wake of his movement, everyone released a breath of relief. His Highness Prince Jean is okay. Fortunately, everyone seemed relieved. But what made them collapse was, they hadn't released a breath in relief when all of a sudden, a strong attack locked on Nangong Luyun. Nangong Luyun, go die! High in the sky, Dongfang Xian carried a power that startled the sky, proudly looking down. His pair of hands held Juesha's sword and exploded towards Nangong Luyun. Chapter 1539, The Last Battle, 19. That kind of power that could move the heavens made it impossible to take cover. No place to retreat. Don't! Su Luo cried out in alarm. She suddenly recalled a long time ago. She was being chased to be killed by Li Aoqiong, where there was no road to heaven nor door to hell. Just at the critical point when he was about to kill her, Master appeared. Master appeared in a very special manner. He waved his hand, and it seemed as if the space/time around him froze. Even Li Aoqiong, who was attacking her, became motionless as if his acupuncture points were locked. At this moment, Su Luo wished with all her heart that time would stop. Nangong Luyun's extremely beautiful face hardened into a cold line. Determined and icily arrogant, from head to toe, he was full of a strong force that was about to burst out. Would he be able to block it? At this moment, it wasn't just Su Luo. Everyone's heart gave off this question and had this worry, because this strength wasn't something humans could block. Suddenly, Nangong Luyun's complexion suddenly changed, becoming incomparably pale. His pair of legs standing on the ground became unstable and trembled slightly. Oh heavens! The rim of Su Luo's eyes became red in an instant. Nangong Luyun's leg's illness had flared up once again. His leg illness flaring up was divided into 3 stages. The pain would increase exponentially. Originally, it wouldn't reach the 3rd stage so quickly, but because he was battling Dongfang Xian, his blood and qi rolled over. As a result, in a short 2-hour time period, the pain index had risen to the highest. Not good. Second brother simply can't block this move. Beicheng Ying's expression was unprecedented, solemn and anxious. What to do? What to do? Dongfang Xian simply wants 3rd senior brother to die. He simply doesn't have any intent of holding back. Ziyin was so anxious that she almost cried. Concede, concede, concede. Su Luo repeated this silently in her heart. She didn't care about ranking number. She only wanted him to be safe and accompanied by her side to roam the world, hand in hand until old. Although he was in extreme pain, Nangong Luyun's sword-like eyebrows and star-like pupils didn't have a thread of pain. Right now, from head to toe, he gave off a strong, honorable, and awe-inspiring aura. Go die! Dongfang Xian's figure came closer and closer, closer and closer. Suddenly, a strange, happy expression flashed through Nangong Luyun's eyes. Buzz, a strong spirit force floated out from Nangong Luyun's body and became a thick fog. It firmly enveloped Nangong Luyun within, wrapping him up like a chrysalis. Whereas Nangong Luyun, under thousands of eyes, sat on the ground cross-legged. His pair of eyes was closed tightly, sinking into a moment of enlightenment to cultivate. Bang! Dongfang Xian's expression abruptly changed, but he couldn't take back the attack of the Juesha's sword in his hand. It ruthlessly hacked down from above Nangong Luyun's head. But when Juesha's sword was an inch from Nangong Luyun, suddenly, the entire world seemed to freeze at this moment. Dongfang Xian raged between gritted teeth, condensed all the spirit force in his body, and poured it all into Juesha's sword. 1 inch. He only needed 1 inch, and he would be able to kill Nangong Luoyuan. But just this inch distance, no matter what, he couldn't advance forward. Moreover, not only was it that Juesha's sword couldn't approach, even he himself seemed to have been frozen into an ice cube and couldn't move. How could this be? Dongfang Xian had a very not good premonition. Why did His Highness Prince Jin sit down? Could it be he isn't afraid? Dongfang Xian's sword couldn't stab down? It seems even Dongfang Xian's body has been frozen, the appearance of being completely unable to move. In the end, what is going on? Is it because a powerful expert had moved to save him? Off the stage, a countless number of people was discussing this. The overwhelming majority of the people didn't know what happened. But Su Luo knew. Chapter 1540, The Last Battle 20. At this moment, Su Luo nearly cried tears of joy. Nangong Luoyuan. He actually at the last minute successfully fused his element, advancing to commander rank. Because she had curiously asked Master before. Master said that once you reach commander rank, you would understand domain. And before, when he saved Su Luo, he used the domain to lock people in place. Within a limited range, could lock space and time. This is the Sage domain that a strong expert would have. The Sage domain comprised of 3 stages. They were Commander rank, Saint rank, and Monarch rank. But once you stepped into the Sage domain, this meant that you had entered the forest of the strongest experts in the world. From 10th rank to Commander rank, although it was only 1 level apart, but between the two was a distance and depth that was the size of the Mariana Trench. Anya Xian, Luo Haoming, even Dongfang Xian, they had already been promoted to 10th rank 10 years ago. For these 10 years, they traveled the entire world, looking for all kinds of miracles and opportunities. But even like this, they still had no way to be promoted to commander rank. But Nangong Luoyuan, he got promoted. Su Luo cried tears of joy. Dongfang Xian wanted to cry, but lacked the tears. Seeing Nangong Luoyuan in front of him with closed eyes cultivating, Dongfang Xian almost cried, because right now his body couldn't move, just like an idiot, maintaining the attacking posture and unable to do anything to the opponent. Originally, victory was within grasp, with confidence. But in front of reality, it was struck and died horribly. Dongfang Xian was so angry that his teeth clenched, but he had no other choice. Because at this moment Nangong Luoyuan was being promoted, not only the laws of heaven and earth was protecting him. Don't know when he understood the domain confinement which he now used fully. The situation at this moment was in a deadlock. On the stage, so serene, as if being confined in ice and snow. On the VIP seat, Old Man Luo's face was as black as the bottom of the pot. So deep that water could seep out. Grandmaster Rong Yun leisurely played with the white jade thumb ring, the corner of his lips hooking into a ghost of a smile. Still, Grandmaster Rong Yun's gaze is far-reaching and profound. This old man extremely admires it. Old Man Luo's mouth rigidly squeezed out this sentence. Grandmaster Rong Yun's I had a faint chill, and Frost only said 3 words. Let me win. Old Man Luo was angered half to death. He had no choice but to toss that Thunder Bao Technique book to in front of Grandmaster Rong Yun. Looks like Dongfang Xian will lose for certain. This book of martial arts. Please, Grandmaster Rong Yun, put it away carefully. According to Old Man Luo's way of thinking, the competition hadn't finished yet. There was still a chance for a reversal. He was merely being polite, letting Grandmaster Rong Yun say these polite words to give him steps to stride off on. But he never expected that Grandmaster Rong Yun would accept that book. He didn't even think and directly tossed it into his space ring. Shallow Phoenix's eyes narrowed. Since it's like this, then this seat will kindly accept. Kindly accept. Kindly accept. The smile at the corner of Old Man Luo's mouth stiffened. He even forgot to take back the hand he had extended. The match hadn't finished, yet he had actually interestingly accepted the gamble stake. Old Man Luo was angered half to death. He had no choice but to clench his teeth and, stressing each word, said, "Hope the outcome is according to your wish." Grandmaster Rong Yun's pitch-black and arrogant eyes glittered with faint light and seriously nodded his head. It will, your head." Old man Luo secretly hated in his heart, but on the surface, he still had to accompany him to smile. At the same time, old man Luo's gaze stared fixedly at Dongfang Xian. Dongfang Xian was Purgatory City Master's first disciple. His talent was outstanding, with formidable strength. Nangong family's that boy could actually get promoted at such a dangerous juncture. Maybe Dongfang Xian, that boy, could also be promoted. Chapter 1541. Last Battle, 21. Old man Luo was full of expectations as he looked towards Dongfang Xian, expecting that Dongfang Xian could counterattack. But having arrived at this moment, was Dongfang Xian really able to counterattack? No one was clear. At this moment, off the stage, everyone looked at their Highness Prince Jean with a new gaze. His Highness Prince Jean actually advanced commander rank? His Highness Prince Jean has reached the legendary commander rank? His Highness Prince Jean is worthy of admiration. Eastern Ling is formidable and domineering. Dongfang Xian, go die for your daddy. A countless number of yells rose and fall in succession. On the stage, Dongfang Xian's dry face turned red. Right now, he wanted to free himself and get off the stage, but such a simple movement he couldn't do. He could only look like an idiot, foolishly maintain that statue-like posture, looking on helplessly as the spirit force on Nangong Liuyun's body increased, as his imposing manner became more and more formidable. Don't know how long had passed. Nangong Liuyun's dense and curved eyelashes trembled slightly. Soon after, his eyes opened slowly. His jet-black as ink eyes were clear as water. In its depths burned a faint obsidian light. He stood up, his long hair dancing lightly in the wind, making him look as handsome as a god. His entire person seemed very indolent and also gave off a faint demonic charm. He stood there, giving off the domineering aura of a king. The Nangong Luyun at this moment gave people an intense attack on their sights and a formidable deterrence force. Seeing this kind of Nangong Luyun, Dongfang Xian's eyes darkened. Immediately, ire rushed out. Dongfang Xian, do you still want to battle? Nangong Luyun's eyes hooked up slightly, giving a feeling of beauty that stole people's souls. However, that innate arrogance, nobility, and domineering manner added more power to him. Speak less nonsense, fight. Dongfang Xian's eyes narrowed dangerously. Nangong Luyun smiled coldly, then he poured the lightning element into Qi Shao's sword. The originally dark Qi Shao sword, in an instant, lit up. Its sword blade was like a clear spring, shiny like daytime. This time, it was double the brightness from before. The bad premonition in Dongfang Xian's heart became more intense. But matter had already become like this. If he didn't fight, it would become a devil in his heart. Although he knew the chances of losing was much greater, Dongfang Xian still didn't say anything else and directly rushed up, waving Juesha's sword. Clang! Qi Shao's sword and Juesha's sword once again collided together. Buzz, a strong rumble sound came from heaven and earth. Everyone held their breath with rapt attention, their gazes unblinkingly staring at the stage. His Highness Prince Jean advanced to commander rank. Dongfang Xian was already known as at the summit of 10th rank. There was just a line between the two people's difference in strength. In the end, who would win? The first two times, His Highness Prince Jean was always at a disadvantage. This time, would he be able to counterattack successfully? Under everyone's eyes, Nangong Liuyun's Qi Shao sword heavily hacked Dongfang Xian's Juesha sword. Momentarily, a lightning dragon serpent quickly coiled around Juesha's sword. Soon after, Nangong Liuyun's dark red lips slowly hooked up into a determined-to-win cold smile. One only saw him suddenly use force. Bang! An intense sound echoed, and Juesha's sword gave off a loud cry. stopping in everyone's ears like the sharp wail of an infant lingering mournfully. Immediately after, a thumbnail-size hole appeared on Juesh's sword. Dongfang Xian looked at that opening. Immediately, his face had a sinister and vengeful expression. The Juesha sword he was most proud of was damaged by Qi Shao's sword's attack. Wasn't it saying that Juesha's sword was not as good as Qi Shao's sword? It's not that Juesha's sword can't be compared to Qi Shao's sword. Rather, Juesha's sword's master can't be compared to Qi Shao's sword's master. Nangong Liuyun's light pink lips sneeringly hooked up, because you do not deserve to have Juesha's sword. Chapter 1542, Nangong's Victory 1. You shut up. Dongfang Xian raved, his eyes burning like raging fire. Nangong Liyun was noble as always, unhurriedly making his move. Bang, the intense sound of mysterious black iron colliding, and sparks flew in all directions from the weapons. Another hole appeared on Juesha's sword. Dongfang Xian looked in disbelief at the two holes that were created in succession, the veins on his forehead jumping out in confusion. Originally, the one holding the advantage was him, but now, everything had reversed. He was hit under heavy pressure from Nangong Liyun. He was the first senior brother Dongfang Xian's anger soared, the fury in his eyes increasing even more. But the more he was like this, the more his moves became increasingly chaotic. This gave Nangong even more ease to defeat him. Less than several moves later, clang, a sharp sword cry could be heard. Soon after, Juesha's sword left Dongfang Xian's hand and flew far into the distance. Finally, it inserted deep into the ground. Only the handle didn't enter. Dongfang Xian's entire person was stupefied. Right now, his hair was in disarray, with specks of red on his clothes and many sword injuries on his body. Although the condition of his injuries was serious, this made him feel as if he had received the greatest humiliation. Nangong Liyun! Dongfang Xian shouted. His face was as gloomy as millennium-old condensed frost. He gave off a bloodthirsty, murderous aura from head to toe. Nangong Liyun's gaze was sinister and strange, the corner of his lips carelessly hooked up, giving him a charm that could enchant all living things. Dongfang Xian, admit defeat. Nangong Liyun cast sideways glances at him from high up, looking down. The Qi Shao sword laid at his neck horizontally. Cold light flickered on Qi Shao's sword. It only had to move slightly, and it would immediately decide Dongfang Xian's life or death. A hysterical light rushed out from Dongfang Xian's eyes, as if it would explode out at any time. Off the stage, everyone held their breath with rapt attention, staring in disbelief at His Highness Prince Jin on the stage. Excellent. His Highness was definitely a gifted genius that was 1 in 10,000. Just now, he was forced by Dongfang Xian until he was unable to retreat, but in the blink of an eye, he advanced. He was still that formidable existence that could produce rain with a flip of his hand. Dongfang Xian originally had victory within his grasp. His anger was like a rampant fire. But at this moment, he was forced to half kneel on the ground. His gaze revealed an ominous glint, but he was powerless. His Highness Prince Jin's counterattack was too marvelous. Off the stage, a lot of people's eyes had an excited glint. Even if they lost this time, but able to see such a marvelous sight, they felt it was truly worth it. Everyone was staring at the Qi Shao sword that was giving off a cold light. As long as Qi Shao's sword flashed, then Dongfang Xian's head would land on the ground. Having reached this moment, what would Dongfang Xian do? Nangong Liyun, you dare to kill me? 2 red-hot, glowing flames flashed in Dongfang Xian's eyes. Why wouldn't I dare? Nangong Liyun's tall body stood straight under the sunlight, his shadow stretched out really long. His long dark hair was loose, and his expression had a demonic charm with a dark ruthlessness. He also had a trace of carelessness, as if he didn't care. Could it be that you aren't afraid of masters? To make Dongfang Xian personally say to spare his life was impossible. Who would have imagined that hearing this sentence, a ghost of a smile appeared in Nangong Liyun's eyes? His smile bloomed until he was brilliant like a glittering stone, his entire person seeming handsome to the extreme. Master? Nangong Liuyun's thick eyebrows rose up slightly. How could Master blame me? If Master knew you wanted to kill Luo girl. At that time, the person whose body would be dismembered into 10,000 pieces would be Yuo. Although Dongfang Xian didn't know why Nangong Liyun would be so certain. However, he knew he definitely had something to rely on. He certainly wouldn't let him go easily. Nangong Liyun, if you have the ability, then kill me. Dongfang Xian howled madly. Chapter 1543. Nangong's Victory, 2. But the Qi Shao sword in Nangong Liuyun's hand turned in reverse, and the handle of the sword ruthlessly hit the back of Dongfang Xian's head. Bang! A heavy sound echoed. Dongfang Xian's pair of eyes closed. His pair of eyes had hypnotic swirls in them as his legs softened and he fell to the ground. The always powerful Dongfang Xian actually would meet a day when he was knocked dizzy by someone. Moreover, it was in front of more than 100,000 people. This was truly embarrassing. But Dongfang Xian didn't know because right now, he was unconscious. Nangong Liyun took out a soft white handkerchief from his sleeves and silently wiped Qi Shao's sword clean. At this moment, the people off stage were discussing matters spiritedly. Almost everyone was praising His Highness Prince Jin for being amazing. But Su Luo's eyes sank slightly. Based on her understanding of Nangong Liyun, Dongfang Xian wanting to kill her, Nangong Liyun would definitely not so easily let him off. However now, he resolved the matter in the shortest time possible by knocking Dongfang Xian unconscious. Among this, could it be that being promoted to commander rank, the illness in his legs healed? Su Luo naturally didn't believe it. Su Luo's gaze turned to Nangong Liyun's pair of legs. Immediately, her gaze became frosty. Su Luo didn't even have time to think and directly ran into Grandmaster Rong Yun's private VIP room. Master, can you announce the result of this match now? Su Luo didn't even knock on the door, and she started to yell from far away. The several old men in the room had their brows puckered up. Grandmaster Rong Yun was too spoiling towards that girl, okay? Making such a big fuss and wouldn't get into trouble? Grandmaster Rong Yun slanted a glance at Su Luo in displeasure as he unhurriedly gave a humph. What's the rush? Dongfang Xian has already passed out. What are you waiting for? Su Luo used a straightforward gaze and directly pulled Grandmaster towards the outside. Master, a bit faster, ah. The old men inside the room were all astonished. It was said that Grandmaster Rong Yun hated the most to have contact with people. He had an extremely serious obsession with cleanliness. Moreover, he usually had a profoundly mysterious appearance and did not show his feelings on his face. But this girl was clearly getting special treatment. It was said that Grandmaster Rong Yun pampered his new little apprentice to the extreme. Now, seeing this, sure enough, it was like that. Whoever married this girl would completely get Grandmaster Rong Yun, this formidable ally. Thinking of this, several elder ancestors had thoughts in that direction and tried to think if there were outstanding young males in their family's younger generation. Su Luo completely didn't know she had become the focus of several elder ancestors' thoughts. At this moment, she quickly pulled Grandmaster Rong Yun up to the stage. Although Grandmaster Rong Yun glared at Su Luo unhappily, he still directly declared that Nangong Liyun was the victor of this match. It's great, His Highness Prince Jin won. His Highness Prince Jin won. Off the stage came enthusiastic cheers. In the wake of Grandmaster Rong Yun having spoken, Su Luo cast aside her master. With a flash, her figure arrived at Nangong Liyun's side. Su Luo extended her hand to hook it around his arm, lifting her palm-sized little face to smile as bright as the sunshine at him. Nangong, you did it really great. Being praised by his beloved woman, Nangong Liyun's heart was as sweet as honey. His slender finger hooked the tip of Su Luo's lovable and charming nose. It's only natural. Matters I promised you. How could I not accomplish it? Su Luo unhappily glared at him, supported his body, and used the tone only the two of them could hear. If you have words to say, say it when we get back. Nangong Liyun smiled. and placed most of his body weight on Su Luo. Sure enough, his Luo girl was very careful, single-mindedly thinking of him. Otherwise, she wouldn't have so quickly pulled Grandmaster Rong Yun over. Grandmaster Rong Yun looked at those figures that had their hands around each other, and he faintly snorted. Little girl that ran after finished using other people, little thing that lacked a conscience. Alas, a woman's heart is with her husband. Grandmaster Rong Yun gave a long, jealous sigh. Chapter 1544, Nangong's Victory 3, Su Luo supported Nangong Luyin down the stage. Bei Chening and Ziyin, in a lively manner, ran over. Lan Xian and An Yiming also circled over. Second brother, you are too awesome. Bei Chenying's hand slapped Nangong Luyun on the shoulder. Who knew Nangong Luyun's figure lowered? If it was not for Su Luo's support, he certainly would directly sit on the ground. This, Bei Chening looked at his own palm with a freakish expression and some doubt. When did his palm have the strength of Hercules? Nangong's body, which had such strong defense. How could he? Su Luo glowered at Bei Chening. She lowered her voice and warned, I'll calculate this debt with you when we get back. After Su Luo called Dragon-Scaled Horse over, she went into the carriage with Nangong Luyun, and they directly left. An Yiming patted Bei Chenying's shoulder to console him. You, boy, are finished for sure. Bei Chening scowled miserably. Second brother looked completely normal. How could I have known? Known that his leg illness simply hadn't healed yet. He looked the same as if he was healthy. Okay? You idiot! Ziyin disdainfully rolled her eyes at Bei Chening. She caught up with Lan Xian and An Yiming, quickly returning. Hey, you guys wait for me. Wait for me. With great difficulty, Bei Chening returned to his senses. He discovered that everyone had left, becoming only little black dots. Without delay, he hurriedly rushed to catch up. Inside the horse carriage, after Nangong Luyin entered, his tense body finally loosened. Su Luo hurriedly took out celestial spirit water for him to drink. Do you feel a bit more comfortable? Su Luo's huge, clear, and pitch-black eyes were full of deep concern. A lot better. Don't worry. Nangong Luyun's smile was splendid like sunshine. Here, there is only the two of us. Don't need to keep up the front. Su Luo's snow-white little hand had a hot spirit aura and slowly massaged his pair of legs to help him alleviate the pain of the cold poison. Nangong Luyun leaned against the wall of the carriage, sweat rushing forth like broth. His complexion was pale as snow. His eyes were weakly half-opened. His lowered eyes watched as Su Luo helped him alleviate some of the pain. His dark red lips slowly hooked up, the corner of his eyes bending into a half-moon shape that was beautiful and alluring. In a low voice, he softly moaned, Foolish girl. No one is more foolish than you. Su Luo used a bit more force to hammer his leg, and Nangong Luyun sucked in a cold breath from the pain. Su Luo did not raise her head. However, her tone had a trace of being choked by emotions. Her words were fast and repeatedly reproached him. Originally, your strength couldn't be compared to Dongfang Xian, and you clearly knew your leg illness had flared up. Why did you still go on the stage? Clearly, you know it's to go throw your life away. Why did you still need to go? Faced with Su Luo's emotional flipping out, Nangong Luyun was as clever and obedient as a little deer. His face had a smile as he explained in a low voice. Isn't this a win? Win? If it weren't for at that critical moment the heavens helped you, if it weren't for you suddenly being promoted at that second, how could you have won? Dongfang Xian's sword strike would have directly split you into two. Su Luo was furious and her hand heavily hammered down. Nangong Luyun was in so much pain that cold sweat came out. This plucky girl, her hands were really impolite. Although he was being scolded, the corner of Nangong Luyun's mouth raised up even more. His smiling expression became more obvious. Pitch black as ink pair of star-like pupils were dazzling, hidden under thick eyelashes. It was so bright and deep, just like a crystal flashing with colors that dazzled the eyes. His long, slender arm extended out, Su Luo had stood up and was unsteady and directly sat on his body. Suddenly, Su Luo was very nervous and cried out in surprise. "Quickly release me. How are you? Did I put too much pressure on you?" Nangong Liyun's red lips hooked up alluringly. Black eyes were warm as jade, unblinkingly looking at Su Luo. He engraved her outlandishly beautiful face in the depths of his brain, leaving a strong mark in his soul. Chapter 1545, Nangong's Victory 4, Foolish Girl. Nangong Liuyun's long and slender as jade hand cupped that crystal-like white face. He caressed her cheeks while his heart ached. "Don't be worried. Aren't I just fine now?" Although she was scolding him, however, the rim of his Luo girl's eyes were red. Nangong Liuyun's heart was like a lemon blending in with water, sour and tart, making his heart extremely distressed. "It's all because you are not good," Su Luo reproached him loudly. Yes, it's all because I'm not good. I'm not good." Nangong Liyun repeatedly acknowledged his mistake in a good temper. His large hand pressed her head into his chest, hugging her to him. Until this moment, he confirmed his Luo girl was still by his side. He wouldn't lose her. Dongfang Xian's attack from when he flew down from midair. Although his expression remained the same, however, his heart still was a bit panicked. He was afraid he would die. He was afraid he would never see his Luo girl. Even to be afraid that his Luo girl would once again get tangled up with that Yin Qi. At that moment, all the concern, worry, and pain mixed together. At that moment, it was as if heaven finally was alert during that time of life and death, giving him the divine light to understand the heavenly rules. Otherwise, how he would be right now would really be hard to say. Su Luo buried herself in Nangong Liuyun's chest, listening to his steady and strong heartbeat. Smelling the sunshine like warm flavor coming from his body, she deeply engrossed herself in it. "Next time, you mustn't do something like this, do you hear me?" Su Luo's tone wasn't as forceful as before, but still wouldn't let him disagree. "You don't know, off the stage, my heart almost stopped beating." "Okay." Nangong Liyun supported her thin and weak back, smilingly coaxed her. Right now, the sunlight was just right, slanting in through the window. The comfortably warm spring wind brushed in. The two people inside the carriage hugged just like this and fell into a deep sleep. One was drained from fighting on the battle stage. The other was mentally worried from being keyed up watching off the stage. So now that the result had come out, with her mind relaxed, they both sank into deep sleep. The dragon-scaled horse subconsciously slowed down. It used a strolling and steady pace. Time passed gradually. The sun was about to set. Nangong Liyun and Su Luo still hadn't arrived. Bei Chening and the group looked at each other in dismay. Didn't they leave before us? How is it that they still haven't arrived yet? Ziyin anxiously paced back and forth inside the reception hall. Maybe they want to take care of their private matters? Bei Chening stroked his chin, letting his imagination roam. Put away your head full of wild imagination. Third senior brother's body is unwell. How could you guys not be worried? Luo has made countless number of enemies. Could it be you guys are not worried? Ziyan's gaze swept among them, making a circle. Not worried. Those three that lacked a conscience actually nodded their heads and said it with a serious expression. You guys don't value loyalty. Ziyan pointed at them, panting with rage. She was just about to issue a lengthy sigh of regret, when outside came the light sound of a horse's hooves and whinny. They are here! Ziyan cried out in surprise and hurriedly ran outside. At this time, Nangong Liyun was already awake, but Su Luo was still in a deep sleep. As a result, everyone saw Nangong Liyun carrying Su Luo, his long legs taking large strides as he walked out from the horse carriage. Every one of his steps was very steady, as if he really was all right. Bei Chening hurriedly rushed up, extended a hand. "Eldest, how about I do it?" Although Su Luo was slender, she still weighed 40 to 50 kilograms. Nangong Liuyun's gaze were like ice blades, as if made from ice that had accumulated for 3,000 years, fiercely shooting towards Bei Qining. Chapter 1546. Nangong's Victory 5. Bei Qinying's hand directly froze in midair. Cough, cough. Bei Qining speechlessly rubbed his nose. It's better. You do it. Second brother's jealousy was still that great leg already hurt to this degree still. A super good man. Watching his third senior brother carried Su Luo and left. An envious light flashed through Ziyan's eyes. In this world, there isn't another male as perfect as third senior brother. Who said? Bei Qining slanted her a glance and patted his own chest. In front of your eyes is an even more perfect male. You? Ziyan imitated Su Luo's appearance, arrogantly raised her chin up, and directly said 2 words. I go. You go what? Bei Qining didn't understand. I'm going to the bathroom. Ziyan turned around to make a wry face at him, then bounced off. This girl? Bei Qining placed his hands at hips and helplessly laughed. Inside the room, Nangong Luyun gently laid Su Luo on the bed. At this moment, the sun was about to set, the whole sky tinged with sunset hues. Orange, red colors cast down through the clouds, as if the entire earth was draped in red-colored clothing. Contrasting against the red cloud, Su Luo's dainty, beautiful complexion became increasingly brilliant, dazzling the eyes, magnificent and blinding. Foolish girl. Nangong Liuyun's long and jade-like finger poked Su Luo's perfectly spotless face, like a little child playing with an infant. I said, I will protect you. How can I shrink back as the battle approaches? Not winning this competition, then how can I marry you? If I don't become strong, how will I protect you? During a life-or-death situation, it's easier to break through awe. Nangong Luyun chattered on like an old man. While playing with Su Luo, who was asleep, he said endless words. However, trust in your man. He has never lost. Nangong Liyun's lip pursed into a smile. His smile was gorgeous like a summer flower. His eyes were like the stars at night, so dazzling, with endless splendor. Night gradually approached. Nangong Liyun held his most beloved woman and sank into a deep sleep. While dreaming, he would occasionally say some crazy words, his forehead dripping with sweat. From night to daybreak, it seemed to pass in an instant. The morning of the second day, Su Luo had woken up way earlier. When she woke up, she discovered the furniture around was arranged in an unfamiliar manner. It took quite a while before she returned to her senses. This was Nangong Liuyun's room. Su Luo patted her head and used great effort to recall. Why was she sleeping in Nangong Liuyun's room? Why was she sleeping on his bed? Su Luo discovered that her last memory was in the horse carriage. While she was scolding Nangong Luyun, she fell asleep. Then there wasn't any memory afterwards. She didn't have any impression of what happened afterwards. Su Luo turned her head to look. Nangong Liyun's incomparably handsome appearance appeared in front of her eyes. Morning. Nangong Liyun was full of smiles as he greeted her. So early in the morning, he seemed to be in a good mood. How do you feel? Su Luo asked, full of concern. Seeing Su Luo's first sentence was to ask about his injury, Nangong Luyun was as happy as a kid who got some candy. With one move, he pulled Su Luo, held her under his body, and he nimbly flipped over to be above her. Nangong Liyun's deep eyes were half-narrowed, the corner of his mouth hooking up demonically as he leisurely asked, Do you want to personally confirm it? How to confirm? Su Luo was pressed under his body. Both hands were inches from his body as she asked hesitantly. For example, do some exercise, huh? Nangong Liyun's interest was very high. Boring. Su Luo humphed, directly pushing him away. If you are fine, then I'm going. Chapter 1547. Nangong's Victory 6. Who said I'm fine? Nangong Luyun stubbornly pressed her under his body. Then what's wrong with you? Little friend Nangong? Su Luo pursed her lips with a smile, stroking his soft hair. Right now, Nangong Luyan acting shamelessly was really like a stubborn brat, making her angry and wanting to laugh at the same time. You don't feel, your man having won the competition, shouldn't you make a delicious meal to reward him? Nangong Luyan had an expression of it being a matter of course. This seems a bit reasonable. Su Luo nodded. You don't think, your man having won the competition, shouldn't you personally make a set of clothing as a reward? Under Nangong Liyun's thick eyelashes, his pupils blinked and shone, like a cute young boy pouting. This seems a bit difficult. Su Luo felt her head had become big. Other women all know how to do it, Nangong Liyun stubbornly requested. But I'm not other women. Su Luo gloomily scratched her head. She didn't even know how to hold an embroidery needle. How to make clothes, it's more like the clothes mocking her. Then just an embroidered pouch. Nangong Liyun held the embroidered pouch at the head of the bed. Su Luo gloomily said, You are a person that has a space ring, okay. What do you need an embroidered pouch, this kind of thing, for? In any case, I want one. Nangong Liyun pursed his lips seriously and earnestly said, Moreover, it must be one you personally made. Su Luo wanted to cry, but lacked the tears. Wanted to coax him like coaxing a child. Then a little later, okay. Not good, you must finish making it in 3 days. Su Luo speechlessly glared at him. He actually had a time limit for this request. Okay, I know. Su Luo, with one roll, climbed up. After tidying up her clothing, walked out acting as if nothing happened. After finally getting outside, Su Luo saw Ziyin. All of a sudden, her eyes flashed and she grabbed Ziyin and asked in a low voice, Recently, is there some good day? There is an Ziyin shook her head. Suddenly, it seemed as if she thought of something and chuckled out loud. If you want to say, there really is What? Su Luo curiously blinked her eyes. Your Eastern Ling seems to have 100 flowers festival. What Ziyin remembered wasn't that clear. Only after a while did she recall. I heard that at the moment when the moon is highest and people embrace and kiss under the 100-flower tree and give each other keepsakes that each had personally made, then this pair of male and female will receive blessing from the god of matchmaking and be together forever and ever. Won't be separated for 3 lifetimes and 3 rebirths. 100 Flowers Festival. When is it? Su Luo blinked her eyes. In 3 days' time. Ziyin smiled. Sure enough. Su Luo laughed mischievously in her heart. Didn't expect that Nangong Luyan would have a period where he acted so childishly. He really was too cute. But this is merely a folklore and nothing more. Whoever believes it is a fool. This was something that third senior brother said before. While Ziyin was busy with the thing in her hand, she also carelessly mentioned this sentence. What? Nangong Liuyun's meaning is that whoever does this is a fool? 3 black lines appeared on Su Luo's forehead. And Ziyin said, full of certainty, was it 5 years ago? Don't remember. In any case, when third senior brother said it like this, that attitude was very disdainful. That's right. Why are you asking about this? No, nothing, cough, cough. Su Luo coughed twice in a low tone. This Nangong Luyun. Actually, to be so disdainful of those folklore. Why would he act so mysterious? Wanted to take her there? She really was unable to make sense of this. However, very quickly, Su Luo had tossed this matter to the back of her mind, because she had more important things she needed to do. Master was a grandmaster-ranked apothecary. He must have ways to deal with Nangong Luyun Leg's illness. Wasn't it said that only a grandmaster-level apothecary could cure Nangong Luyun Leg's illness? Chapter 1548. Nangong's Victory 7. When Su Luo arrived, Grandmaster Rong Yun was just holding a book, casually flipping though its pages. Seeing Su Luo come over, he didn't even lift an eye and gave a faint snort. He also deliberately turned his face away. The black lines appeared on Su Luo's forehead. What was Master doing? Master. Su Luo dragged out the word, gathering close to Grandmaster Rong Yun's side. Humph. Grandmaster Rong Yun immersed himself in the book, as if there was something inside the book that deeply attracted him, making him unable to take his eyes off, so he didn't even lift his head. Su Luo quickly pondered this in her head, thinking deeply where she might have offended venerable master. But after much thought, she still hadn't a clue. Master. Su Luo weakly pulled at Master Rong Yun's sleeves. Grandmaster Rong Yun lifted up the teacup and calmly drank some tea, simply just ignoring Su Luo. Master, please look at me, for better or worse. Don't you like to look at this face? Su Luo pushed her face closer to him. Her face was about 70% similar to Yan Hua's face. Just a glance, and you could almost take the fake for the real one. Yan Hua was deeply imprinted into Rong Yun's heart, the softest existence. Like this, how could Rong Yun still be angry? His slender as jade finger poked Su Luo in the forehead and darkly snorted twice. A woman's heart is with her husband. You this girl, humph, humph. Now that you have a man, you don't even want this master. Master. Su Luo suddenly understood why Master was angry. With a sweet smile, just like the sunflower blossom in summer on her face, she tried to get closer to him. Master, you sit and relax. Luo will make tea for you. Humph. Grandmaster Rong Yun's expression became a lot better. Su Luo busily personally boiled the water, sipped the tea, soaked the leaves, then personally poured a small cup. She placed the cup in front of Grandmaster Rong Yun and smiled in a kissing-up manner to say, Master, please drink some tea. This tea, Master can't afford to drink. Grandmaster Rong Yun didn't accept it. Why? Su Luo asked, puzzled. That foolish boy's leg illness. This master can't cure. Grandmaster Rong Yun was what kind of character? Su Luo's eyebrow moved, and he could guess pretty close to what she was thinking. Why can't you cure it? Su Luo became anxious and hurriedly grabbed a stool and sat by Grandmaster Rong Yun's side. Her expression was very serious. Why can't you cure it? Wasn't it said that only a Grandmaster rank apothecary could cure his leg's illness? Master is so awesome. Why can't you cure it? Su Luo was in confusion from being concerned and tossed several questions in succession. Rong Yun's brows once again wrinkled. You are very worried? Su Luo nodded her head like a little puppy. How could she not be worried? That was the man she was set on. If you're concerned about it, then you should strive harder. Grandmaster Rong Yun arranged his sleeves and calmly floated out a sentence. Only when you yourself get promoted to Grandmaster level, then he can be saved. Why? Su Luo couldn't accept it and stood up. Clearly, Master can cure him. Why won't you cure him? Master clearly knows I'm only an elite apothecary at this time. Afterwards, I still need to be promoted to Master Apothecary. Even if my luck is good and I get promoted to Master Apothecary, there is still Grandmaster Apothecary. This doorstep I need to enter. It's not like Master doesn't know. Old Man Luo cultivated for a full 100 years and doesn't have a way to step over this gap. Can it be that Master believes I can be promoted within just a few short years? Su Luo became anxious, and her words were like artillery shells, pitter-patter, shooting out. Grandmaster Rong Yun determinedly looked at her, eyes pitch black as black jade with a mysterious expression, complicated and distinguished. But Su Luo didn't back down as she met his gaze. Her deep gaze that met his didn't have any meaning of shrinking back. Chapter 1549, Nangong's Victory, 8. Master and her. Their temper had always been crabby. None of them spoke first, both determinedly stared at each other. Grandmaster Rong Yun's expression was still as calm as before, but Su Luo was grasping coarsely, showing her mood was stirred up. It was after a long time had passed, when Grandmaster Rong Yun slapped the back of Su Luo's head. This bad temper is exactly the same as your mother's. Su Luo, seeing Grandmaster Rong Yun spoke first, knew she had won. So, she smiled and said, Master, don't you particularly like my mother's temper? Grandmaster Rong Yun rolled his eyes at her. How could he like Yan Hua for her temper only? All of Yan Hua, including the silken strands of her hair. He loved it all very much. But these words were not suitable to explain to Su Luo, so he just remained silent. Grandmaster Rong Yun muttered irresolutely to himself for a while before explaining to Su Luo. Do you know what kind of poison that boy is suffering from? Which poison? Su Luo's expression was puzzled. Cold poison. Grandmaster Rong Yun calmly replied. Moreover, it comes from the coldness of a male's cold poison. There is no medicine in the world to solve this poison. Only what? Su Luo urgently asked. Only Grandmaster Rong Yun lowered his voice and whispered a sentence by Su Luo's ear. Immediately after, he calmly picked up the teacup and carefully tasted the tea, as if it was the sweetest and most beautiful flavored tea in the world. Su Luo foolishly sat in place. Slowly, the complexion of her face became somewhat red. Master, how could, Su Luo said in disbelief, how could there be this kind of treatment method? Su Luo really felt it was hard to believe. That boy is whose disciple? Grandmaster in a faint tone asked. The master of Purgatory City. Su Luo replied while at a loss. You think based on Master of Purgatory City's strength and methods, why hasn't he been able to cure his disciple's illness? Grandmaster Rong Yun again calmly asked. Su Luo suddenly seemed to have seen the light. That's right, Based on the Master of Purgatory City's strength, how could he ignore his personal disciple's body having an unmentionable illness? But even now, Nangong Liuyun's body still had that unmentionable illness. What did this show? This showed that even the Master of Purgatory City had no way to deal with this illness. 10 years ago, Long Qingtian had brought him over to have a look by your master. Grandmaster Rong Yun's voice was indifferent, caught up among old memories. Although your master doesn't get along with Long Qingtian, this matter isn't about people. At that time, your master personally checked that boy's pulse and understood his illness. Su Luo's heart immediately understood. No wonder Master didn't even have to look and knew Nangong Liuyun had leg illness. He also knew he couldn't cure it. So, it turned out that 10 years ago, Master had tried to cure him. Su Luo opened her eyes wide, carefully listening to Master speak about this story from the past. Grandmaster Rong Yun continued to say, the cold poison in his body is very strange, as if sealing a berserk strength. Very frightening. What? Su Luo suddenly stood up. Even Master said that strength was frightening. Then that unknown strength in Nangong Liuyun's body. In the end, how frightening was it? Once the seal is removed, that foolish boy's leg illness won't be cured by medicine. Grandmaster Rong Yun's eyes were abstruse, as deeply profound as the ocean. And to remove the seal on his body, there is only one way. That was what Master has just told you. But when employing this method, you must be Grandmaster-level apothecary. Otherwise, you won't be able to endure it. You would die from your body exploding. Saying the later part, Grandmaster Rong Yun's gaze was very strict like millennium-old frost. Therefore, the minute before you reach the Grandmaster-level apothecary, you must guard well your body. Understand? Chapter 1550. Talk about marriage, how to held the marriage. 1. Having heard Master's words, 3 black lines appeared on Su Luo's forehead. Master, these words were rather too explicit. Who knew that not only didn't Grandmaster Rong Yun's expression ease, on the contrary, his brows wrinkled even more tightly. If it is before, it will only harm his body and not help him, understand? A streak of scarlet flashed across Su Luo's face as she immediately nodded her head. This disciple knows. How could this kind of thing be said so clearly? Grandmaster Rong Yun muttered to himself for a while before saying to Su Luo, the situation in the future might be far from good. If possible, you must quickly upgrade your fighting strength. Master? Su Luo blinked her eyes. She didn't understand some of Master's words, but in the wake of these words, Su Luo's heart had a bad premonition. She had a premonition that not far in the future, the entire world would get caught up in a reign of terror. Go? Grandmaster Rong Yun clearly didn't want to say more. He waved his hand, and made Su Luo leave. Su Luo bit her lower lips, hesitated for a while but still silently left. Master still didn't want to tell her all the facts, but at that time, Master clearly told Nangong Luyun but refused to tell her. It was because her strength was too weak, right? Su Luo lifted her head, a thread of firmness flashing through her eyes. She made a firm resolution to cultivate seriously. Watching Su Luo's leaving back, Grandmaster Rong Yun smilingly shook his head as he sighed. Immediately, as if he thought of something, his expression gradually darkened. Right now, Grandmaster stood under the cherry blossom tree, full of the light pink petals floating down one after another. But not a speck of dust stained his pure and holy body. Don't know how long this kind of serenity would last, Grandmaster Rong Yun sighed. Su Luo returned to Southern Mountains. Today, the Southern Mountain didn't look very peaceful. Outside the wall, several luxurious horse carriages could be heard. Seeing this show of extravagance, it was certainly because someone came from the palace. Before Su Luo could react, she saw an eunuch with a horse whisker rod and a smiling face as he ran toward Su Luo. "Princess, you've finally returned. This insignificant person has waited for you for a long time." Su Luo unhurriedly swept him a glance. "Princess. If someone from Prince Jin's manor was to call her this, then it's nothing. But coming from this eunuch's mouth was quite interesting. If she didn't remember wrongly, this was the most favored eunuch Lin by Emperor Jing's side. Princess, His Majesty asked to see you." You see, the normally arrogant eunuch Lin very carefully accompanied this with a smile. "His Majesty asked to see me?" Su Luo unhurriedly walked into the great hall, while eunuch Lin almost had to run to follow behind Su Luo. He had lived for 50 years and was hunchbacked at the waist, like a little eunuch who had just entered the palace. His Highness Prince Jin and Princess made it to the first two places. His Majesty is very happy, since earlier he had ordered the imperial kitchen to prepare a feast. Ask His Highness Prince Jin and Princess to do me the honor to go. Eunuch Lin's voice was very careful, afraid of angering Su Luo, to make her unhappy. Su Luo carelessly took a look at him. She remembered that 2 years ago, when she entered the palace, this old eunuch actually slanted a glance at her, refusing to look straight at her. He had his nose up and refused to acknowledge her, full of disdain and despising her. But a mere 2 years, his attitude had really changed quickly. Su Luo gave a humph and didn't speak. She lifted her head and entered the great hall. Inside the great hall, Nangong Luyun was sitting, leisurely drinking tea. Seeing Su Luo return, his handsome face blossomed into a brilliant smile. But his smile was very stingy, was only given to Su Luo, her alone. So when he saw eunuch Lin following behind Su Luo, his face seemed to be immediately enveloped by frost. He coldly humphed in annoyance. Chapter 1551. Talk about marriage. How to hold the marriage, too. Now, Nangong Luyun had what kind of cultivation, ah? He only faintly humphed, and eunuch Lin felt as if his whole body had fallen into an ice house. He almost suffocated from this. "Jin, Your Highness Prince Jin." Eunuch Lin's both legs bent, directly kneeling down. Because eunuch Lin had followed Emperor Jing since he was a youth, the two people's affections was not ordinary. As a result, eunuch Lin normally could strut about. The concubines in the harem competed to curry favor with him and held him up high. However, this time, eunuch Lin had no choice but to lower his arrogant head, because his fear of His Highness Prince Jin came completely from within his body. Nangong Luyun held Su Luo by the hand and pulled her to sit on the side as he tenderly stroked her hand. "Where are you going so early in the morning? I couldn't even find you." This tone was so tender that water could be wrung out from it. Eunuch Lin on the side very much envied this. "Went to Master's place?" Su Luo recalled Master's words, her eyes flashing. She cast a glance at Nangong Luyun, went to find Master to ask about some matters. "What matters?" Nangong Luyun hugged her gently. "Matters concerning you. With outsiders present, Su Luo had no plans to say it in detail. Nangong Luoyun also became aware of eunuch Lin's existence. His face darkened as he swept him a glance. Get lost. Eunuch Lin was very frustrated in his heart. Even Emperor Jing wasn't ever this rude to him. His Highness Prince Jin really didn't give him a bit of face. Eunuch Lin recalled Emperor Jing's instructions and summoned his courage to start talking. His Majesty has an imperial decree asking Your Highness Prince Jin and Princess Jin to enter the palace for the banquet. Princess Jin? Nangong Luoyun was rather moved by this address. He grabbed Su Luo's hand. I have completed most of your master's requests. Choose an auspicious day, and let's get married. Su Luo's pitch-black, clear, and lustrous eyes looked at him as she blinked them. What? Could it be you want to go back on your promise? Nangong Luoyun heavily gripped her hand. Who is going back on the promise? Only now it's not the time to get married. Su Luo gloomily frowned. Why? Nangong Luoyun's tender appearance, in an instant, condensed into frost. His grip on Su Luo's hand strengthened. This strength made Su Luo's brows tighten even more. In any case, getting married, we still can't. Faced with Nangong Luoyun's pair of clear, monochrome, and large eyes, Su Luo couldn't continue with what she was saying. She could only conclude the unfinished sentence. In brief, we can't get married now. Afraid Nangong Luoyun would continue to question this, Su Luo hurriedly changed the subject. Her eyes stared at Eunuch Lin. Did His Majesty set up a dinner banquet? That's right, that's right. Replying back to Princess Jean, it's a dinner banquet. Eunuch Lin, seeing he had a chance, hurriedly nodded to say, Then that's fine, let's go now. It's already pretty late. Su Luo pulled Nangong Luoyun up. Seeing his face was still overcast, being powerful without being angry, she said a few words by his ear in a low voice. Wait until we return. I'll give you a reasonable explanation, okay? Nangong Luoyun's pair of eyes seemed to shoot flames as he glared at Su Luo. Seeing her expression was normal, he nodded temporarily, letting her go. Su Luo originally wanted to go see Emperor Jing, but just now, Master's words had moved her. Master said, situations in the near future will be far from good. If possible, she should do her utmost to promote her fighting strength. Su Luo had a lot of heavenly material, earthly treasures, and cultivation technique books. But with regards to Eastern Ling Empire, if circumstances became bad, if Emperor Jing didn't make her feel nauseated as before, she wouldn't mind helping him. Because no matter what, Eastern Ling was Nangong Luoyun's roots. She didn't wish at that time they wouldn't even have a homeland. Of course, if Emperor Jing was still as confused as before, Su Luo naturally wouldn't give him those good stuff. Chapter 1552. Talk about marriage, how to hold the marriage 3 Imperial Palace. Emperor Jing had both hands linked behind his back as he impatiently walked back and forth in the palace. His heart was very happy, but was also somewhat a mess. He never expected that Su Luo really was able to enter the top 2 in one stroke. This time, the top 2 both came from Eastern Ling. Then in the future, among the 4 nations, wouldn't Eastern Ling be in the top position? Thinking of this, Emperor Jing was naturally very happy. He was very glad that at that time, he didn't change out Su Luo. But recalling the way he treated Su Luo before, Emperor Jing once again wilted. Don't know if that girl would hold a grudge or not. If she held a grudge, then this matter would be difficult to complete. As a result, Emperor Jing waited for Nangong Luoyun and Su Luo's arrival under the torment of these messy thoughts. Time passed slowly, but the people he was waiting for still hadn't arrived. A fine sheen of sweat started to appear on Emperor Jing's forehead. If nothing worked, then... Just at this moment, Eunuch Lin's sharp but high-spirited voice sounded. His Highness Prince Jean arrived. Her Highness Princess Jean arrived. She hadn't even been married through the door, and her title was already decided upon. This was specifically instructed by Emperor Jing. Heaven knows how much in demand was this Su Luo. The rest of the 9 great powers, which family didn't want to marry this girl through the door? Not mentioning Grandmaster Rong Yun protecting and escorting behind her, just based on her own strength and the identity of an apothecary, was enough to have the people begging to marry her flock around her. Hearing the voice coming from the palace gates, how could Emperor Jing still be as pretentious as before? His face, right now, was piled full of smiles, as he went to welcome them, full of warmth. Going to the gate to meet them. Seeing Emperor Jing personally come out, Su Luo and Nangong Luyun exchanged a glance. A trace of surprise flashed through Su Luo's eyes, but Nangong Luyun's expression remained the same as always. As if this was right, he seemed to think it ought to be like this. You guys came? Let Father Emperor wait for quite a while, ah. Emperor Jing laughed repeatedly. He turned his head and familiarly said to Su Luo, Luo girl is really amazing. Didn't expect you could enter the top 2. This has never happened in the record of the entire world, ah. The corner of Su Luo's mouth hooked into a faint smile. If at that time her mother participated in this roaming dragon list, how could that guy steal away her title as number 1? Therefore, Emperor Jing's words were still exaggerated. But Emperor Jing could change his way of thinking and not meddle between her and Nangong Luyun. This was already pretty good. In the end, he was Nangong Luyun's biological father. Su Luo also didn't want Nangong Luyun to have a thorough falling out with him. Su Luo smiled faintly. Your Majesty praised wrongly. How could I have praised wrongly? You are even more amazing than the legend said. Mentioning this, Grandmaster Rong Yun's gaze is still the most accurate. Even Liu Yun's vision is better than this father's. He had seen through you, this pearl covered in dust, since earlier. Ha! Emperor Jing kept Hanji as if he was wiping clean all the things he did before. Su Luo had a ghost of a smile as she raised an eyebrow. Today, Emperor Jing's behavior was outside of her expectations. His face was really thick, able to give or take. Seeing Su Luo's expression was indifferent, unconcerned, Emperor Jing once again accompanied with a smile, loudly reprimanding Su Manor. This Su Zian really has some eyes that can't even see the pearl. Such a good daughter. He forcibly drove away. Luo girl, you don't need to be afraid. With Father Emperor supporting you, you don't have to worry about Su Manor over there. Hearing these words, a faint smiling expression flashed through Su Luo's eyes. Emperor Jing was really too interesting. Before, he was itching to separate her and Nangong Luyun as far as possible. Now, he continuously called himself Father Emperor, wishing to draw up the name officially as soon as possible. Chapter 1553. Talk about marriage. How to hold the marriage for? Father Emperor? Su Luo's rightfully cold gaze swept towards Emperor Jing. A trace of inquiry was in the depths of her eyes. Emperor Jing rubbed his hand and laughed with a ha-ha. Very quickly, I'm going to be your father, right? Since you won't recognize Su Manor, then we won't recognize them. While your master is here, you and Nangong should pick a good day to get married. Nangong Luyun had always taken Emperor Jing's words as farts, but these words went according to his intentions. As a result, he even nodded as if taking everything very seriously. Su Luo unhappily sent him a glare immediately after, saying to Emperor Jing, the matter of getting married is not urgent. What? Emperor Jing became more anxious after hearing this. Originally, he really wasn't anxious, even to the point of wanting to break them up. But now, the 10 great families had gathered together. Those old family elders looked at Su Luo with eyes shining with light. That meaning clearly was to snatch her home as a daughter-in-law or granddaughter-in-law, okay. Su Luo waved her hand. This matter, let's discuss it later. Discuss it later? No way. Emperor Jing's gaze looked towards Nangong Luyun. Although his son was very outstanding, but there were plenty of outstanding young masters in this roaming dragonless competition, like Luo Haoming, Liao Chen, Anya Xian, and none of them was married, okay? Su Luo thought about it and still sighed. Marriage, this matter. It's best that your majesty talk directly with my master. Emperor Jing, hearing this, his expression became more worried. Could it be that in this matter, there would be an unforeseen change? Su Luo thought a bit, then took an egg that was about the size of a soccer ball from her space and placed it in Emperor Jing's lap. Have you seen this before? This is... Emperor Jing carelessly swept a glance at it. However, the next second, his entire person seemed to be in shock. This is a vulture egg. Emperor Jing was so excited that his face turned red. Could be considered a little knowledgeable, Su Luo secretly said in her heart. But seeing Emperor Jing's excited appearance, the hand she was using to fish around in her space stopped. Immediately, she smiled, then took out another one and placed it on the ground. You. How can you put it on the ground, ah? Emperor Jing grumbled and hurriedly picked it up. This was a vulture egg, ah. Heaven knows how much a vulture egg was worth. It was simply a high price, but no market to buy it, ah. Because the vulture that came out of a vulture egg, after growing up, would be a flying magical beast. If you must know, if Eastern Ling was to have flying magical beast, and the other 3 countries didn't have it, then wouldn't the other 3 countries be stunned? Flying magical beasts were very difficult to catch. Even if you caught one, it was still very difficult to domesticate. Therefore, besides one golden crane in Eastern Jing royal family, there was no other flying magical beasts. But now, Su Luo took out one, then in passing, took out a second one. Emperor Jing, with one vulture egg in his right hand and another in his left hand, the muscles in his 2 cheeks trembled excitedly. But it looked as if Su Luo was performing a magical trick after it was another one, then another one. Watching this, Emperor Jing became completely stupefied. These are all. Emperor Jing stammeringly stared at Su Luo, both eyes giving off green lights of greed. This girl was rather too generous, ah? Every one of these vulture eggs would be invaluable if brought to a market. But stored with her, they were simply like watermelons? Casually, she could fish one out? Emperor Jing used an unprecedented admiring gaze, looking at Su Luo with sincerity. Su Luo stopped taking them out after fishing 10 out, with both hands spread out to say, for the time being, just this much. Emperor Jing looked at the ground full of vulture eggs, his eyes almost dizzy. Su Luo said that for the time being, it'll be this much. What did these words mean? It meant she still had more. These 10 eggs weren't all the ones in her hand. Chapter 1554. Talk about marriage, how to hold the marriage 5. Only Grandmaster Rong Yun would be so generous as to be able to take out 10 vulture eggs all at once. Thinking up to here, Emperor Jing was even more firm in his plan to get Su Luo married through the door to Nangong Luyun as soon as possible. As for his original choice of Li Yao Yao, from the moment her cultivation was wasted, Emperor Jing had already tossed her far to the back of his mind long ago. Su Luo smiled faintly. First, take these vulture eggs and hatch them. If you can tame them, then at that time, there will be more. Su Luo promised. At that time, they gathered a lot, and there was still Li Yao Yao's that was also in her space. Large and small, nearly several hundreds. These 10 vulture eggs were merely a drop in the ocean. Moreover, placing them there really took up too much space. Su Luo tossed it to Emperor Jing as if discarding scrap material, while Emperor Jing wanted to enshrine and worship Su Luo. This matter had been completed. Nangong Luyun stood up and pulled Su Luo up to leave. But Emperor Jing called them to a stop. The banquet is already prepared. You guys, his son and future daughter-in-law, really made him proud. Emperor Jing naturally wanted to show them off. So this time, he invited a lot of people, including people from the 10 powerful families. But Nangong Luyun's gaze was like cold frost, sweeping a gloomy glance at Emperor Jing. You can enjoy it by yourself. Afterwards, he pulled Su Luo along and was about to leave. But before he could leave, a burst of jumbled sounds of footsteps could be heard coming from outside. Su Luo's brows started to pucker up slightly, because just based on the sound of the footsteps, she had recognized who it was. The Crown Prince Nangong Liujue's figure appeared at the door. At the crown prince's side was the empress's dignified and solemn face. The empress saw Su Luo and Lu Yun. Her indifferent expression, with great difficulty, squeezed out a smile. The time for the banquet is almost here. The guests have already arrived. How about just this? The empress clenched her teeth, looking at the two people in front of her. These days' competition, the empress had secretly watched everything very closely. Every time, she would make heavy bets, betting Su Luo and Nangong Luyun would lose. After this series of competitions completed, the empress lost nearly all her family fortune. Now, seeing the two people, naturally, the new hatred and old hatred all rushed up. The crown prince's gaze burned as he stared at Su Luo. His heart had a mixture of all the flavors and was extremely painful. 2 years ago, she was the girl he discarded and ruined. Now, she had grown to the stage that he had to kneel and look up to. Once, he was the sky and she was the weeds. Now, she was the sky, and he had been reduced to the weeds at the side of her foot that she was too disdainful to even step on. Such a large gap that the crown prince almost couldn't return to his senses. His pair of eyes burned with light, unblinkingly staring at Su Luo. Nangong Luyan walked to in front of Su Luo, blocking the crown prince's gaze that was shooting light in all directions. He coldly cast a glance at the mother and son pair. Soon after, he pulled Su Luo along and left. He wanted to go. Who dared to block him? The empress and the crown prince had thought to stop them, but Nangong Liyun's pair of pitch-black eyes shot over a glance. Immediately, the mother and son pair became peaceful. Seeing the backs of their leaving figures, the crown prince had a very complicated expression in the depths of his eyes. He heavily slapped his own head. "Jewer, what are you doing?" The empress, with one grab, stopped the hand Nangong Liujua used to slap his own head. This child didn't know the degree of seriousness. One palm slapping down. If it was a bit heavier, his brain would have been cracked open by his slap. Mother Empress. Nangong Liujua's face was full of despair and sorrow. His smile had a thick mockery. "Mother Empress, once, I actually fought over things with such a strong expert and used all kind of crafty plots, machinations against him. You say, am I foolish or not? Now thinking about it, indeed, he was thoroughly foolish." The Empress tragically shook her head. "Mother Empress is more foolish than you. Actually thought you could overtake him." This really was the most laughable jest in the whole world. Chapter 1555. Talk about marriage. How to hold the marriage. 6. However, inside this imperial palace, the family of 3 mutually sighed with sorrow. Speaking of Nangong Luyun, he pulled Su Luo to quickly leave the imperial palace. Angry, when Nangong Luyun carried Su Luo to sit on the legendary 100 Flowers tree, Su Luo couldn't help but ask. Nangong Luyun's thin red lips were pursed into a white line. He unhappily turned his head away, pretending Su Luo was just air. Su Luo felt he was infuriating and ridiculous at the same time. Why did Nangong Luyun look like an unhappy child? "It's not that I won't promise, it's that master won't allow it." Su Luo spread out her hands, extremely helpless. "Is your master more important, or am I more important?" Nangong Luyun's stuffy tone could be heard. "You are naturally more important," Su Luo replied without the slightest hesitation. Hearing this on-the-dot answer, the dense, gloomy aura in Nangong Luyun's heart dissipated somewhat, but didn't completely disperse. He swept a faint glance at Su Luo, then indifferently looked into the distance as he slowly said, "Then why would you rather listen to his words?" Su Luo recalled the answer Master gave, and her heart was extremely awkward. But in the end, she still said it to Nangong Luyun. Nangong Luyun gave a light cough. A thread of blush from embarrassment flashed across his face. "You actually blushed." It's as if Su Luo had discovered a new world. She was endlessly delighted. Nangong Luyun glared at her with hidden bitterness. "According to your master's words, then how long will I have to wait?" "Wait until I..." am at Grandmaster level apothecary. Su Luo stuck out her tongue. She also felt that this request proposed by Master was too abnormal. Grand Master level Oppo, the carry. The veins exploded out on Nangong Liuyun's forehead. He grabbed Su Luo's shoulders, and Su Luo weakly lowered her head, not daring to look Nangong Luyun in the face. Then how long will it take? Nangong Luyun was forcefully insisting on a time limit. Don't know. Su Luo really didn't know. 3 years. Nangong Luyun's tone was overcast and cold as ice, as he firmly and persistently said, 3 years' time. This is my bottom line. 3 years. Su Luo lifted her head to look towards the sky. In her heart, she silently howled in grief. 3 years' time from elite apothecary to master apothecary. After, to get promoted again to Grandmaster Apothecary? How is this possible? If you must know, Elder Luo was trapped within the master-level apothecary for a whole 100 years. In this entire world now, there was only Master, this Grandmaster-level apothecary. Did Nangong Luyun think that being promoted to Grandmaster-level apothecary was as easy as eating food and drinking water? Su Luo used a criticizing gaze to glare at Nangong Luyun. But the latter wouldn't allow any disagreement, glaring at her very fiercely. 3 years, if you still haven't cultivated to that rank, your daddy, won't care about the consequences, and we'll talk about it after doing you. Nangong Luyun had always been graceful and noble. Now, he was pressed by Su Luo until he became anxious. He even exploded out with vulgar language. Su Luo knew this time she really forced Nangong Luyun to his bottom line. Okay, 3 years, then it's 3 years. Su Luo nodded, agreeing to the promise. Time seemed to fly by, passing by very quickly. In the blink of an eye, the time for the last match had already arrived. Usually, the last match would be the most marvelous showdown between experts at the peak. But this time's roaming dragon list competition was completely the opposite. The last match, only 2 people remained. It was Su Luo and Nangong Luyun. The two just so happened to be world-famous, deeply in love sweethearts. Could they still hope that they would have a life or death showdown? But everyone was curious about just what kind of conclusion it would have, bringing this match to an end. Therefore, all the spectator seats were still full of people. Each and every one of them whispered and discussed this spiritedly. Chapter 1556, Talk About Marriage, How to Hold the Marriage, 7, but everyone waited on, and still those 2 people didn't come. The time to start the competition was about to arrive. Could it be these 2 people were both going to be late? Just when everyone's heart was restless like ants, 2 figures leisurely arrived. The man had black hair that draped over his shoulders and a face handsome as a god. The woman was an exceptional otherworldly beauty. Icy, distinct jade-like bones were similar to an immortal fairy from heaven that came to the mortal world. Now, hand in hand, they slowly descended onto the battle stage. Finally came, the spectators all exhaled at the same time. They thought both of them would be late. The match officially begins. In the wake of this announcement, the stick of incense burned out completely. The referee announced the beginning of the match. The first place of this match, after the match, will get a chance to get 1 more elemental attribute, while the second place winner got nothing. But the 2 people on the stage, these 2 people actually smiled at each other, immediately speaking in unison. I forfeit. Suddenly, the audience became absolutely silent. Everyone stood in silence, unable to speak. Su Luo forfeiting was understandable, but why on earth would His Highness Prince Jean also forfeit? He could defeat Su Luo with a wave of his hand, okay? He actually chose to forfeit? On the VIP seats, when the several elders heard this, they started to laugh. Interesting, very interesting. Elder Bachin stroked the several strands of goat beard on his chin, full of smiles, saying, These 2 people both forfeited. Brother Rong Yun, you say? What ought to be done? Grandmaster Rong Yun was the chief judge. Naturally, he had the final say. Elderly coldly humphed. Such a solemn occasion, because of a love affair, to actually forfeit is simply ridiculous. Elder Luo also followed to agree with Elderly. The rest of the people also stood in either team. What does Brotherly feel ought to be done? Grandmaster Rong Yun's indifferent gaze swept towards Elderly. This person from Jade Lakesley family had deep hostility towards Nangong and Su Luo. This point, everyone present was very clear about. Elderly also didn't hesitate, cleanly and crisply expressing his thoughts. According to me, this forfeit is simply not a decision a strong expert should make. A strong expert should always press forward, rather die than to submit, rather than to forfeit. So, Grandmaster Rong Yun's tone was faint, his expression couldn't be seen. So this time's competition, there is no number one, only two number twos. Elderly issued a rousing call. If this was on a battlefield, in the front-line battle of life and death time, between human and mystic clan. When the great cause for humanity and personal feeling of love was placed together, there is a great possibility that Nangong Liyun will choose the personal feeling of love. You guys say, does this kind of person have the qualification to be a champion? Does he have the qualification to sit in that position? The several elders present had their brows furrowed. What Elderly said was not without reason. A man aspiring to travel and make his mark, caring excessively about feelings of love between a couple, was the biggest restraint to his heart. So he couldn't do great things. Grandmaster Rong Yun's expression was apathetic and non-committal. Elderly saw Grandmaster Rong Yun still remain unmoved, and his eyes sank slightly. Elder Beichun gave a sneering laugh. He disdainfully looked at Elderly. I say, Oldly, it's not because you fear Nangong that boy, right? What did you say? Elderly became angry. Don't tell me it isn't. Nangong Liyun is a wind, water, and lightning 3 elemental mage. His age is still young and was promoted to commander rank, fully deserving of being king among the new generation. If he was to get another element attribute, when all the elements are fused, his strength would be what kind of evildoer? It's not like you aren't clear about this, right? Not waiting for Elderly to retort, Elder Beichun coldly laughed. Jade Lakesley family has hatred towards Nangong Liyun and Su Luo. Everyone knows you don't want those two people's strength to increase. Everyone also knows, so you don't need to explain. Because to explain is to cover it up. To cover it up is tantamount to making up a story. You! Elderly pointed at Elder Beichun in a rage. He almost spit out a mouthful of blood from anger. That you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.